Hello, everybody. This is James, the Bone Discoverer, dedicated to original peoples as always. And we've got some special guests on today. We got Edison. How you doing, my brother, from Ancestral Essence?
Very good, very good.
Patrick
Looking forward
Graham,
Yes,
Chase
people.
Johnson Lynch, and Curtis Watt. And we got, it's coming soon, Errol Graham. So welcome to the show, my brothers.
Good.
Great to have
Blessings.
you all on. Anyway,
Mm.
so today we're dealing with the topic today is Black consciousness. So I'm interested to see everyone's views of what Black consciousness is and see where we relate and see how we can unify and connect, which is very important. So let me just give a little quick introduction to this. Like when I think of Black consciousness, just from a simple, basic point of view, it's like I'm always conscious of me surroundings, me environment, and basically me people. Basically, just keeping it simple from back slavery, colonialism, and even the word black itself, how it's being used against us. Like black ain't beautiful, where we have to reverse all these things. Black ain't beautiful. Love your hair, love your skin. Doesn't matter dark to light. We've all got to love one another, and that's what it's really about anyway. So I'm just giving a short introduction to it. I'm not going to go too much into it. So I'm going to start off now. I'm going to start with you, Chase. So what I'd like to start with is Chase is give us some. You being from New York as well, so you've seen it from definitely from a different perspective, but it all relates. Tell us a bit about your first take on Black consciousness.
Well, kind of like a pretty wide scope word. It's kind of like the way they use media to mean so many different things. So I don't want to get like lost in the sauce around it. But being the American, I guess I will say that from my perspective, I was born in the 60s, so Black consciousness was, I come from the age of the Black Panthers and the Afro Power movement, about rising up and belief in ourselves, so that's why I was always like Black is beautiful, and everything like that. And because if we don't love ourselves, who's going to love us? You know what I mean? So it was always about trying to spread the word of like you're more important than the people who try to keep you down. So I'm not gonna like say any particular type try to keep you down, but I think everybody has their own particular experience around that, But what I would also say is that I'm also upset about the lack of information that we've had from people from my generation, because now that I've been focusing a lot on Black excellence and learning through, yes, the internet, I'm sorry, but that is our library, that is our Encyclopedia Britannica today. I mean, I had to learn about things
Hitting the cloth.
like Black Wall Street, Tulsa, and, Red Summer. I had to learn about that,
Well,
and I had no clue. You know
yeah.
what I mean? I had
We'll
to learn
save
about.
we'll save some of this because this is just the introduction, and we're gonna
Oh, I'm
go.
sorry, bro. You
It's
just
all
told
right.
me. All right, all right, all right, all
I did
right.
wave the hand,
Whatever.
but it's all good.
Yeah, I
All
want to
right
talk
then.
more about that, but I'll
We'll
move
come
on.
back
You
to
go
that
for it.
though. Anyway,
Yeah.
all right then. All right, Curtis, give
Sorry,
us.
I'm really when you're saying wave the hand, every time you wave your hand, it vanishes.
Yeah, it's just madness, man. You know what I mean?
can't
But
see
but give Curtis gives a little introduction to Black consciousness when you were
Mm.
first aware. I know we did last week. We did back to the
Yeah,
roots, but it's a little also a little different as well.
yeah. I think Patrick will relate to this as well, man. I mean, like it's the oral culture, like the orature. Do you know what I mean? Like of like passing things down by stories and stuff, making medicines that you've got to, be very delicate with the ingredients, and so you would sing a song what your ancestors gave you. So that you can time how much ingredients you're putting in and when you're putting it in, things like
Hmm.
that. And even in Somali culture, poets are revered massively because they keep the culture alive,
Yeah.
like everybody's family trees and things like that in it. You know what I mean? So that's what that's how I utilize it. I'm sure Patrick does similar as well, and we all do in our own different way, I suppose.
All right. You cut it short then. Okay. Patrick, give us a little introduction to Black consciousness.
Can you hear that noise in the background?
No,
Okay, that's good. All right, those are to be washing machines going on.
it's all good.
Okay, now for me, Black consciousness is a response to basically the type of times that we're growing up in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, society, racism in society, and to discover Black consciousness is to like reconnect with your roots, your heritage, and use that in order to empower yourself, empower others, in order to fight off, you know, what is predominantly a racist society that will surround a neo-colonial existence that we're living in. So for me, Black consciousness is about equipping yourself with cultural knowledge and heritage and being proud of that in order to help you navigate the type of times that we live in, you know what I mean? And that's been an ongoing process from Chase mentioning about the Black Panthers in America. And, you know, this is an ongoing thing, you know what I mean? Black consciousness has been important since the abolition of slavery, you know what I mean? And across the diaspora, and especially here, but in America, especially when they went through the restoration period for like 20, 30 years after the abolition of slavery. And then, you know, that was abolished. It was like, well, we've had enough of trying to be good to you, and we're going back to, you know, almost back to slavery in that sense. So yeah, Black consciousness is recognizing your roots, your heritage, and being proud of that and using it to navigate what is a difficult world. Right now, it's needed more than ever in this country, and especially for Blacks in America.
All right.
With what's
All
going
right.
on.
So this nice introduction anyway. Edison, will come to you, the introduction to Black consciousness for yourself.
This is slightly off left field per se. It's only based on the stuff that I do, where we're always focused on my things that I do is like to teach you how to communicate with the intelligences within you. So my thing is like to teach you how to speak to your ancestors. So you hear like you're hearing me. So the concept of Black consciousness is really you learning to control the dark matter consciousness within you. You being able to access your ancestors' wisdom, wisdom from your previous lives, wisdom from your higher self, wisdom for the reality around you. So we're always looking to take it beyond we appreciate the slavery part, the history part, the mystery part, and we understand that that's a story you're never going to verify. You're always going to be working off other people's books and concepts as what you think it is. So our dark matter consciousness is always about the dark matter intelligence that you have within you. How do you access that, control that, and be in a position where you are your authentic self from an actual essence state? So that's what Black consciousness means to me. So
thank you very much. Welcome, Errol. You know, finally got the camera on now. Great. Good. Anyway, we're just getting a little introduction part. It's only going like a minute 20 or something like that. Just speaking on Black consciousness, your introduction to Black consciousness.
The way I understand it in terms of understanding who I was as a Black man, I think it's very early age, from the age of 6, I would say, just being with your parents. And we were in town one day. Patrick was in a pram, and we went to get something for school. And I remember someone is using the N-word and calling somebody a black bee. And I just remember my mom holding my hand tight. And it was at that point I realized that there's something about our skin, and that we were I could clearly see we were different. We were different people in the world, but I didn't think it mattered. So it was at that point it started to dawn on me, okay, this black skin that I have, or brown skin, makes us different in some way. And I just remember my mom saying, come, make we come out of this place, man. You know, in her Jamaican accent, and she hold my hand tight because she felt a little fear. And she carted us off and we left town. You know, so I think from that point started to make me realize that okay, this color that I have has showed me that there's something going on in this world that sets me apart from it, you
All right.
know? And
Yeah.
that's where it starts to dawn from me. And then the real realization came was, I would say, at the tender age of watching Roots
Yeah.
as
Well,
well. That really,
save it because we're going round anyway. That was just a quick
Mhm.
introduction for everyone. Now, as we go now, we're just going to go for like 3 minutes each, so
Okay.
we can
But I
elaborate
don't
more
think
on
I
it.
got 3 minutes yet.
No, the introductory was just a minute. That's all we needed to go
Okay. Yeah,
introduction to it.
good. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So anyway, like I was saying, when we think about also the Black Panthers and what was interesting to me, I didn't actually realize that the Black Panther movement, the influence it had around the world as well. This is one thing I was quite surprised. I mean, we are blacks all around this planet, as we know. But the thing is like when we were younger, I don't know how your views were, but probably similar to mine. I only viewed like the people who were black, for example, in the Americas, the Caribbean, the ones we have in Europe, people come from Africa or the Caribbean, and that was basically it. But then obviously as I started connecting with brothers like Renault Rashidi, I started realizing the black world. And it started understanding that with the first people coming from Africa as black people and the people who stayed in the melanated places, and there's a lot of similarities with African people because we all got to remember we are African people, even if you're in the Pacific Islands, Asia, whether you're in Australia or whatever. So back to the point on the Black Panther Party, I didn't actually realize that the Dalits of India come under the black. They had their own Black Panther Party fighting against their oppression with the caste systems, about 7, 8 different castes. And racism's been going on in India a lot longer than even Africa, so thousands of years. Then I started realizing that the Aboriginal Australians also had a movement in the 70s where they were coming under some sort of group, the Black Panthers. So what I started to realize is that we are the most influential black people, even though we have black people everywhere, but we are the most influential black Americans, people coming from the recent African ancestry. That's a better way of putting it, rather than everyone just coming from Africa thousands and thousands of years ago. So I started to realize that black oppression is all over this world. When I realized that, it was a destiny, and it was become really passionate for me to explore and go into the most secluded areas wherever on this planet. Didn't matter if I've got to see black people in the jungle, mountainous areas, deserts. It didn't even matter. Take dangerous drives there. So that's where I started becoming really connected. And then it started connecting me with my spirituality, realizing that I'm a free spirit and, I must connect to brothers and sisters wherever we are. So that's just my take on it. I'm going to come to Chase now. If you want to continue what you were saying or go where you need to go, Chase.
Well, I mean, like the thing about it is that, the reason why I want to be a part of this because it's like the whole deal is it's information is power. And what I was saying, where you stopped me when I was talking about Tulsa and everything else,
That was
there's
the
so much
introduction. Yeah.
information that we don't know that has been denied us, that's been whitewashed, that has been, you know, um, not educated to us in any kind of form or fashion. And like, so when you actually look at history, I mean, blackness wasn't even the bad thing until like around the 1600s. Not even then. It was just like when white people in power, wanted more power, and I mean, like your brother, like Renoko Rashidi, it was big on that, like when he would talk about the Olmec heads,
Mhm.
blacks traveled, man. They were seafarers, you know, you can't talk about black people or Africans without talking about the Mali Empire, without talking about Mansa Musa and all of that. And when you deny talking about brothers like that, you're denying your strength, your power, your wisdom. You know what I mean? And then that's where your consciousness should be talking about. So I'm glad we're not talking negativity about this, that, and that, and how we're oppressed. Because I'm tired of that. I mean, we heard that, let's talk about more of the positive things. And I'd rather hear more of that when we're talking about Black consciousness. It's like, how can we raise that? How can we get the young people to hear this stuff that we all know or we're all learning? I mean, I know Patrick is constantly learning stuff that I'm talking about right now. You know what I mean? And trying his best to like express that, and in that aspect, that's what I feel that we need to do. So, and you do a fantastic job with your program as well, James. So that's why I wanted to be here. But that's all I got to say, really.
All right then, yeah. All right, Curtis, if you want to add a follow from what Chase is saying or add your own on, feel free.
Yeah, I mean, one of my obvious links that is it is obvious, is that playing the djembe.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
powerful.
no matter where you take that drum, especially the one that I got from Africa Oye in 2021, that's the most perfect drum I've ever played in my life, man. And just having that, and like when you go into a space, even if I'm doing teacher training, the first thing I do is I get the djembe out and I get people to do a bit of call and response and stuff like that. And if it's kids, I'll get them up dancing and whatever, you know what I mean? And it just
Yeah,
creates joy everywhere you go, and it raises the energy of the space that you're in. Especially
yeah,
when you're around like sandstone and wood and like more like raw materials. It's not like a plastic type of instrument, man. It's just like if you go to the cemetery, the cathedral cemetery, like up
yeah,
there. I was working with some people in recovery for a few years, Genie in the gutter, and we'd go when it was sunny. We'd go over to the cemetery and we'd do drumming, and like everybody's spirits were just like lifted. It was amazing. It just always has that vibe about it. It's just so magical. Do you know what I mean? So
the
that's really
ancestors.
important to me. Do you know what I mean? That
Yeah,
it's just it's just a good thing, man. Like you can go with a guitar, you could go with other instruments, but it's just because you're pushing. Oh, but look at the shape of it. You're pushing that much air in a split second, especially when you hit the bass and it funnels through. It's like when you squeeze a hose pipe. Do you know what I mean? And that's why the sound resonates around the space, especially if there's like several really good djembes with good djembe players. That's when you hear the harmonics of the wood of the djembe underneath all the bass and everything. And I just find it's like it's magical.
well, the
Really.
drum's powerful all over the world. So,
Mhm.
Patrick, anyway, you can either add on to what Curtis is saying or chase anyone or just connect to what you feel.
Well, yeah, just following on from my introduction and the reason why having Black consciousness is important, you know what I mean? Because a lot of things are negative in the world, and a lot of things impact us. The way society's been set up for the last few hundred years, it impacts us as Black people massively. You know what I mean? In the diaspora, in Africa, all around. So having that consciousness of your heritage, your roots, um, and your history, um, where you come from, or trying to find where you come from in some cases, because obviously a lot of people in the Americas and the Caribbean may not know exactly which parts of Africa that they do come from in that sense, because that conscious connection to them, that lineage is being broken, severed, you know what I mean, and the records lost. So for me, it's connecting with that. It's using it to say, empower yourself and, find your place in the world and your contributions to it as a people's, and also sharing, what Shay said before, like information. I'll add one extra word to that: information stroke knowledge is power. You know what I mean? It is powerful, you know what I mean? And we're in an age of where information, who knows things first, can use that for whatever means. So at the moment, a lot of things are being cancelled, not just in this country. There's been attempts to take certain books out the curriculum. In America, that's happening on a whole different level, where things are being stopped, um, and taken out of the curriculum, and people are losing their jobs and all this. It's just an attack on what is being termed as DEI, diversity, inclusion, and equality, which covers so many different things, but the focus is basically just on predominantly Black people and non-white people. That seems to be the only focus of it, and people are jumping on that racist bandwagon. And so to be Black and conscious now is just as important as it's ever been, and even more so because there's been a concerted effort to kill that consciousness, you know what I mean, to stop you learning that connection to your heritage and your roots. So it's a case of always trying to learn more, and knowledge is useless if you keep it to yourself. So the idea is to share it, you know what I mean, as widely and as much as possible. And to, I can't remember the exact word to use, but to paraphrase Emperor Selassie, you know what I mean, is basically a man who has learns enough knowledge and keeps it to himself, renders it useless, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's so true, because why have knowledge, you know, or wisdom, whatever you want to call it, and keep that to yourself? It serves no purpose. The idea is to empower and uplift other people with that knowledge and wisdom.
All right.
And that's what
Yeah. Well, we'll go back around. Edison,
Yeah.
funny enough, you mentioned before about the ancestors and these kind of things. And also melanin, you know, you probably might look at it from a deep perspective of the power in our melanin, the intelligence, you know, to the spiritual realm, you know. Can you give us a little information?
In truth, see, this is a difficult thing because when black people weren't given the term black, someone else gave them that term. So effectively, all it is you're of a darker melanin. And melanin is the substance that effectively makes the world. Everything is based on the dark matter intelligence that's within you. The dark matter, how do you say, that which can't be held or holded or used. It's just the potential of everything that can effectively happen. So whenever you're about to see anything, you've got a blank screen. And then when you make an instruction, that black screen then turns into an image. So effectively, dark matter is all that your mind is made of. You're the essence that controls the dark matter to create the hologram so that you can see what you're actually seeing. But if I could just so essentially it was really just be that if I could go back over the story, be that I grew up in a very racist area in South London where all the black people would know if you're going to that area, beware because they're openly racist there. And we found that even though we grew up there, because of our Nigerian, I don't like the word Nigerian to be fair, but because of the village that we came from and the wisdom that they had in the village where we came from, where my grandfather could call rain if he wanted to, and there were so many different other things that they had the capacity to do. That fascinated me. That had me always trying to work out who are we and what are we truly capable of. I appreciate I went through all the right knowledge, Nation of Islam, Panthers, all these different schools to familiarize myself with all the history of all these situations. But the problem that I kept finding was we were always never telling our own stories. We found that other people always told our stories and how we demised based on our own infighting, which is not the truth. But so what I found was how do we find the ultimate weapon? Because we're not going to find it in rhetoric. We're not going to find it in communication or speaking. Yes, we're going to teach our children the history. Yes, they're going to know how the world came to be via someone else's view. But the actual power, the dark matter, their color, their melanin, what it can actually do, that's what I focused on. That's why I realized that we have the capacity to do absolutely anything. The one thing they can't do with an African that knows itself is try and limit what it can do, what it can call, what it can create, what used to be standard. So now we're in this situation where someone has given us a history to argue over. And we're doing very well at being able to be annoyed. I call racism, especially slavery, passive smoking. We didn't smoke it ourselves, but the actual smoking of that information, we're now using that to define ourselves. We didn't go through it, but we're acting like it happened to us. This is a mind program. This is the whole concept of even when I'm referred to as black, I prefer to be referred to as melanin, dark melanin, as opposed to black, which is synonymous with all the different negative labels you can attach to it. The truth is, I'm dark melanin. I have the access to be able to conjure my ancestors and call them to my aid. All of us do. All of us do every single day. The problem is we've been brought up to believe in so many different things except ourselves. So when
Oh,
you're
thank you.
speaking about consciousness, the last thing I'm thinking of is I appreciate the history. I appreciate everyone needs to know that. But essentially, you need to tell the child who and what they're actually capable of so that the history is just information and who they are is what they're about to do.
Ah, thank you very much. Anyway, perfect. All right, Errol, you can either add on or you can bring what you need to bring in this discussion.
Speak quickly about the drum because I love the story. Yeah, the djembe drum.
Mm.
You mind?
But
Sorry,
Errol,
it's
one
just
sec. We're going to come back. We got to
sorry,
make sure everyone's.
it's
Let's come back round to that. Errol,
go
yeah,
ahead.
you just got to be on the top. Errol, if you want to add on or bring anything.
Yeah, just like a bit of what people have said and the brothers said prior to, me coming in now in terms of, Marcus Garvey said, "Up, you mighty race," and I think that's what if I can encompass of all what Edison has just said, but the way from my first introduction in terms of when I was talking about identifying myself and who I was. My parents came from Jamaica, so they were very proud Jamaicans, you know. They didn't they didn't bow to anyone, you know. So in that sense, we were always proud of who we were, you know. Now, some people might say, well, Jamaica is in the Caribbean. Well, I grew up under a roots vibration, which with music like Jamaica, Jamaica is an African outpost in the West. So when I say Jamaica, I'm saying Africa at the same time because where you find us, you know, we watching the movie Roots or the series when we were growing up showed us that we were transported from Africa to the Caribbean and to the Americas, you know. So that gave me a sense of who we were. We were African, you know, and that gave me a sense of my roots then, and that what we now call Black consciousness. But like the brother says, I don't like the term Black. I rather the term African, you know, African roots, you know, because like, yeah, where is the Black man land? You know, you hear people say that from time to time, and we could say, yes, Africa is the Black man land, you know, but at the same time, you know, that word black is just thrown on us, you know, like brother said in the last podcast, his family never realized they were black when they come from Africa. It's only when they came to England and people were calling them black this and black that, because you were identified by your nationhood and not by your color on the continent, you know. So
Yeah.
to me, you know, knowing who I was as an African, and now I can identify on my mother's side anyway, at least, that meeting some of my mother's brothers and sisters who we've just met recently, long story short, they've known that they were came from the Igbo tribe, and they've known that living in Jamaica all this time, you know, so meeting one of my uncles and telling us that we were from the Igbo tribe, you know, was a delight because there's a direct connection. And I know most of the people from the Caribbean are either from Ghana, Gambia, or Nigeria, you know.
That's right.
Many of us have come from Ghana, you know. If you listen to people like Miss Lou, who is a Jamaican poet and historian, telling us about the Twi language, and many of the words that we speak in Jamaica come from the African language, you know. So yeah, that gives us a real sense of identity as an African, you know.
All right. Well, yeah. Anyway, right. This is interesting what we're talking about now, and if I can just add on to a couple of things, what some people have said as well. Funny you mentioned about Marcus Garvey. Malcolm X was really my first introduction to Black consciousness, I'd say. I mean, I got it from music. I've got it from my father. My father's the first person that installed it, but just big figures that we've all heard of, Malcolm X. So I ended up becoming a Muslim. And here's the funny thing about it. I was doing it through Malcolm X, because he had the Nation of Islam. And I could see black liberation happening. And that was my whole purpose. I didn't last long doing it because I realized that I started seeing racism not only with Europeans but also with Arabs as well. This is my introduction. Sometime when I go to school, and some of the Muslims say, "Ah, you're not a proper Muslim," and so sometimes it was like, "What?" Malcolm X was a Muslim, but then I started to understand about the Arab slave trade the same way as we understand the European slave trade. So that alone started to make me go and look in other directions because I've always sent for some sort of spirituality and purpose of us being here. So I started like doing my own type of research, very basic research first, like looking at the Panthers, Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey's, and then later started wanting to get into deeper research, started reading like the Chancellor Williams, the Renault Cole fan, and all these later. Also traveling. It was traveling different places, but the main thing was is traveling, getting into the mother continent. So, like I say, I worked my way in Africa. I went into Morocco first, because of sometimes you don't know exactly how people respond to you as soon as you land into the deep part of sub-Saharan Africa. And like just like Errol, I know Errol been to the Gambia, so Errol could understand the fact of Gambia is a place where it's probably one of the first places in sub-Saharan Africa where the welcoming back is easy, it's overwhelming. As soon as you get into that airport, welcome home, brother. When you start to getting that feeling, this is my impact into what we call sub-Saharan Africa. And when I seen a lot of people with dreads, a lot of people into reggae music, and it was just so easy to relate to. It was unbelievable how easy Gambia is to relate to people, and then the hospitality of Africans also. Oh, even the people who work in the hotels, they take you places, they look after you, treat you like another brother, so all these things, and then looking at the respect, like looking at the African women, their culture, their dignity, their pride, you know. And yes, you will get things like sometimes you will see skin bleaching. I'm sure you see that in Jamaica and certain other places. I've seen skin bleaching in Kenya, different places, but that's just like there's so many, and that's all down to what people want to call survival mode. So some people believe that they're doing these things to get a better job. You know, so. But at the end of the day, when you meet the Africans who have that self pride, and when I see Africans very proud, that even made me more prouder, knowing that all the crap we've been told about our people, we didn't have civilization, we didn't have this. But at the end of the day, I've gone to Africa ever since, and I want to see every African country. So Chase, anyway, right? You want to either add on or go where you want to go, brother?
No, I mean like no, I mean like the thing about it is I said what I was had to say. I mean like I mean it would be more if he had a like question for what I was talking about. Because I mean basically I mean that's just my focus around consciousness is like the only way we could be conscious is if we're aware. And I just don't feel that our young people are aware enough. I feel that we have, proud, intelligent brothers like you guys that are on here and other people that you're aware of that know, but it's unfortunately that our young brothers and sisters don't. So the more we actually get to talk about history is what I'm interested in talking about. So it's not like I'm going to profess to be a master in history as far as like knowledge because I'm always, amazed at what other people know and what I got to learn. But I just feel that it's worth a discussion around, and so pretty much that's what I had to say around consciousness.
Interesting. And I mean, with you having big condo studios as well, you've got the platform there to be able to
Mm-hmm.
reach the youth. Now, it might be difficult for you getting youth in, but the way you would get engaging youth through programs and that, because you have a platform to get a lot of black people on your show. I'm not saying you have to only have black people. I'm
Well,
saying
no, no,
you should
no.
have a
Well, no, I do.
particular thing for the youth.
Yeah, what you're saying is I do. Like I have like my own like podcast show, Liverpool Community Podcast, but I actually teach podcasting now. So that's what I've been doing since we've been like working together. So I've been going into schools with young people teaching them podcasts. And then what my focus has been on what is their knowledge and awareness around Black excellence. Like I did a great program with Broad Green Academy and I'm also trying to do some work with I'm pretty sure you're aware of Jude Aegis. Like she is like overseeing the Anthony Walker Foundation now. And I mean, like, so basically, I would love to get a group of young people. That's my goal. And to get a group of young people into the studio where I can hear from them what it is that they do know, what it is that they want to learn, and what it is that they want to pass on to other people like themselves. Because who
Okay.
wants to hear from old fogies about the past, right? You know what I mean? And so, I mean, that's my goal setting right now is to find a group of young people to do more of a Black excellence program around because I think that that's where the children are our future in that aspect. But the internet, I mean, a lot of people are naysayers around the internet. I say, yo, dude, you're just denying where information is. You know what I mean? I mean, true enough, people misuse the internet. True enough, there's a lot of disinformation and misinformation on there. But you can't put that into the same category when there are a lot of educated people that put together like these like sites around Black history and all the things that you could learn
Yeah.
that we don't have encyclopedias anymore. You know what I mean? There are no libraries anymore. So like nobody can actually find this information unless someone is pointed towards it through your Black Mirror on your phone, as Edison was talking about. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of like in that aspect is, we need young people to actually continue to spread this word, and we need older people like ourselves to like push them towards that.
Well, let me
So that's my speech.
yeah, well, let me bring Curtis in now, and I'm going to add on to sort of what you just said then, because Curtis works, you deal with a lot of youth, you have, you go in schools. How could Chase, any advice for Chase on how we could expand the teachings of learning for Black youth from wherever you've came across?
Yeah, I was working in a, what's it called now, King's Academy or whatever it's called, Shawfields basically. I was
Yeah,
working
Yeah,
there
yeah.
last
King's
week.
leadership.
Yeah, I mean, it was just because one of the music teachers wasn't in, so I did African drum circle with them, and he was just amazing. The kids were just like, again, like I said before, man, it just like they were all just like smiling when they left the place and everything, you know what I mean? But also when you think about like rap.
Mm.
The whole hip
Oh,
hop
well,
thing,
this
you
is a
know what I mean?
perfect example now. Yeah,
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
people embracing rapping. I used to love it because like when I was like 16, I had on Grove Street opposite Abercrombie Health Centre, those big three massive Georgian houses. We were in the end one day,
yeah,
and I had a sick attic room, and so my mates used to like write little raps, and then they'd always come up and ask me to like sort of proofread them, sort of thing.
yeah.
You know what I mean? It was amazing. Do you remember Robert Murray? Do you know him?
I can't think now.
Robert
No.
Murray, yeah, and I know because he moved
Yeah.
to Japan actually. Anyway, yeah, that was interesting. People used to come up and just like, just say what you reckon on these bars and this things like that. And I had one of those. I was a bit of a, I had a, but I was good, lucky because I had a little loft. Do you know what I mean? Like I had my own little apartment basically at the top of that house. I missed that. But yeah, that was amazing, man. Just seeing people like, just starting to rap. And there was a video going around, Frank Rumsey, remember Frank
Yeah,
Rumsey?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
There was a video going around when they were at an event in the Caribbean and Michelle was in it. Michelle Seacombe as she is now, Lenahan.
I can't think of that name.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
sometimes faces.
Natalie Lenahan, don't you?
I can't think. But anyway, what you're
Mm.
saying, and also I want to add to something
Yeah,
what you just said. When we were talking about rap music, because this is
yeah.
important as well. And I'm going to come to Errol in a bit when we speak
Mm.
about the conscious reggae music. Was you more focused on just rapping, just get bars out there, or was you more like conscious artist? How would you describe yourself?
Yeah, I always like wanted to write about things rather than about myself or
Yeah, yeah,
anything.
yeah.
I wasn't there to like big myself up and all that kind of thing. I've never really. I mean, when you're freestyling, you sometimes do a bit of that, you know what I mean? When you're just messing around and stuff. But and then you know, where Jason Coker, he had his little bedroom with his little decks in and all that when we lived in Eversley Street.
Mm,
And then so we used to just goof around to different beats and that. But I was always interested in, because I told you about, you know, D, remember the Delroy Bins?
I don't know, hundreds of
Delroy.
names you mentioned. I can't even keep up with them all, man.
Anyway,
Yeah,
he did.
yeah.
Don't remember Jordi Yanko? That was
You know
it.
what? I don't.
Yeah,
Like
you
I
younger
say,
than me, bro.
yeah. You know
But
what?
anyway,
Yeah,
it
go on.
was in that.
Sorry.
Remember I told you he took when my mum died and he came and he didn't like go on about like death or anything because he lost his grandmother like not long after I lost my mum.
Oh,
And
okay.
instead of like dwelling on the sorrow and things like that, we just walked along to his house, right? And he had Cubase set up and taught me how to do Cubase. And
Okay.
then by the time I was like 23, I'd go to his house like and I'd give him like lecky cards so I could use the electricity man to because he had a rolling sequencer, which I
Okay.
didn't have. I didn't have any of that equipment at the time. But yeah, it's just for me, it was always like either having fun or like trying to spit some wisdom on the mic. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It didn't have to be
Well,
like massively profound, but that just that you're not doing like gangster rap and that because not that I'm against it, but you know what I mean. It's got its fun, hasn't it? Do you know what I'm saying? But
yeah,
that
yeah,
wasn't really
yeah.
my personal
Well,
style. I wanted to talk about stuff, and obviously you had Levi, who was
yeah.
there. You had
We're coming to
Muhammad Khalil.
all right. Well, we'll come back around anyway with this one,
Mm-hmm.
Patrick. Anyway, yeah, you can either add on or bring what you need to bring, brother.
No, well, just to continue the debate in general, like a few names, one or two people have mentioned, like to Marcus Garvey, you know what I mean, and then being one of the I use the term loosely when I say early pioneers of Black consciousness and Black nationalism, Pan Africanism, because you can go back a few years before him. One of the guys who's generally seen as like one of the first ones to use some of them terms of Pan Africanism. There's an American guy called Martin Robson Delaney, and he was born in like the early 1800s, and he was a guy who was constantly talking and campaigning for basically for Black Americans, you know what I mean, to have their own power base, their own structure, their own government in some senses, you know what I mean. He looked at places like the Caribbean. He traveled extensively around the Caribbean, even went into parts of West Africa, you know what I mean, in the hope of being able to, get land and be able to move people over there. And he wasn't opposed to Liberia and its inception at them times, but it was something where he thought Liberia's like dependent on still the colonial system and the American government for this and that. He wanted, an independent black state where you didn't have to do that. And I know he was, there would have been other people, but I know he was a big influence on people like Marcus Garvey, you know what I mean? Because he came before him, you know what I mean? And organizations like Chase mentioned at the top of the introductions about the Black Panther Party, but people look at them and just think the Black Panther Party, they just like interpreted the American Constitution and said, we've got the right to bear arms. There's always just them pictures of them with guns, but there was a lot more to them than that. You know what I mean? They've done food programs, they've done education programs. It was about enlightenment and teaching the people, you know what I mean? And this is just carrying on the work of people like Delaney, Carter G. Woodson, different people like that who, Carter Woodson, as we know, is seen as the founder of Black History Month or Black History Week as it was when it first started. And then, it's developed into a month and spread around the diaspora. So all these different mediums are a way of connecting with yourself, with who you are, finding yourself and putting yourself in the world and saying, well, yeah, I say we use this term black loosely because we said that was a term given to us rather than who we are, you know what I mean? And that's why he was into nationalism, black nationalism, you know what I mean? Because it was, you know, he spoke of things like, well, there is no black land and such, like Errol said, you know what I mean? Because, you know, you hear of an Indian man, a Chinese man, a Frenchman, an Englishman, and then you hear of a black man, and you think, well, hold on. You can see the disconnect there straight away because everyone else has a nation in front of the name, and we've just got a colour in front of ours. So it disconnects you from a nation in that sense, and he was trying to make that reconnect. And consecutive people have tried to follow on with that as individuals and as organisations, you know what I mean? And, you know, like you said earlier on, James, about the Black Panther Party having that influence all over the place, even in Liverpool in the early 70s, you know, they had what was called the Green Jackets, which was influenced based on the Black Panther Party, you know what I mean? And trying to better themselves and better the community. You know what I mean? So, you know, the Black Panther Party in itself, they've created creches so people go out and find work and do work and they could look after the children. So there's food programs, like, you know, what we call them food banks nowadays, but they were doing that back in the 60s and early 70s, you know what I mean? Providing means for people to survive and look after the kids and their education. So all these different things are going on. It still needs to go on, you know what I mean? So
all right. Well, we'll get back around then. I mean, interesting things what you're mentioning then. Edison, as I come to yourself now, a little words I always use is, for example, there's who we are and who we became.
Mm-hmm.
If you can elaborate on or go where you need to go.
It's that's an interesting one. All right, but can I do the drums one? Because
it's whatever you want to do.
And I'll come back to that briefly if I can.
Fine.
It's only the drums one and the magic of it and how the djembe drummers, they're very special. They're just not normal people where you're drumming to hear the music. You're actually moving the spirit of the energy of the actual person. And this isn't spoke because everyone just says drum, you're making music. But no, you're actually through the drums and through the techniques, moving the essence of the person.
Flowing with the rhythm.
Where parts of them that they don't even know, because I met a load of djembe drums, and what we used to find is when we did various drumming sessions, that you would have someone that would have a spirit in them which they couldn't control, and the djembe drummer could drum in a certain way that it could direct the spirit and put it in a place where it calms the person down. And then the history of these drums, because it's just said as a drum, and now most drums are made and they make the material of it. But when these were done in the village, this was done where the animal that actually was killed to make the drum, they looked after that animal for a period of time. They actually spoke to the animal, and when they actually killed the animal, they had already made a bargain with the animal to say, we're going to take care of you in another life, but what we ask you to do is be the connection to our ancestral world. So when the drum is being paid, the actual ancestors from the world of that village is now coming forward, and people that were sensitive in the actual crowd, they would feel the ancestor come through them and start to speak and say messages and bring something over. So this drum was not just a drum, it was a living connection to the ancestral world. It's really not actually spoken of. And again, hopefully, Curtis, you can back me up. That's essentially what it is.
Yo, for real.
We're so scared to talk about that because we don't appreciate music is the synchronization of movement of energy within you. And when you hear that music, it brings you from different parts of yourself back into your conscious mind so that you can then find yourself communicating and speaking in ways that you didn't even know that was there. We used to see it where people would be mounted and all of a sudden someone would start getting up, speaking, saying messages, and then the drummer would hold them there. And then when they could see the person was losing it, they would bring them back into the world, and then the person would collapse. Someone would catch them. But in that time, they spoke about so many different things about people, what was going on that they couldn't see, because everyone's operating from their own illusion, not that reality is much bigger. So I just wanted to say that because that's never ever said. Everyone just kind of like is drums. It
No,
ain't
but
just
you just reminded me of a memory. I'm glad you said you expanded on that because when we were
Got
getting,
Errol. If you want to quickly say
Yeah.
what you say, only because I've got Errol coming in next. I'm trying to keep it round, but
no, it's only just because it's relevant to what Edison was saying. So I just want to tag it on the end of that, if that's
yeah,
okay.
if you briefly, if you,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Because when
yeah,
we
yeah.
when we were in when we were on our way to South Africa, I spent like 2 months in London. We were doing all these workshops, and Tebby, who was our drum master, we put like a circle of stones, crystals, stones, different things like that. And one of them, it literally looked like a fossilized dinosaur egg. And we were all playing and everything, and some of us had like the go-go bells and things like that. Because I wasn't really much of a djembe player at this point. Anyway. He went over with his drum and he just literally, this is the rock, and as the base of his djembe, he just held it like about that far from like a half a centimeter and played it like this. And all of a sudden, it was like somebody had like given us a drug or something like that. And then I said, bros, when he went over and went like that, brah, 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 and he sort of like he'd clown around because he was so good at it. He'd like make jokes out of it. But he went up to the, and I swear, like the whole energy of the vibe changed. I ended up in tears
All
after
right.
that.
Well, you can
Yeah, man.
continue that, but let me
Yeah,
get to
yeah,
Errol. But you can always bring that back in because that's interesting.
yeah, yeah.
Anyway, Errol,
Mm.
with you being a brother also who's into your music, I had you on dealing with the sound systems. I know you're
Mm.
connected in vibrations, man. So I know you definitely relate to this. And reggae is a powerful spiritual music. You know what I mean, bro?
Yeah,
Peace,
music is
Rasta.
a great teacher. But
Yeah.
to add on what Edison was saying about the drum, when I left school in 1980, I joined a dance group where we had teachers from West Africa, from Ghana and Nigeria, and we formed a dance group called the Lardo. And basically, when we first used to play the drums, there would be times when, after we played them and we were rehearsing and stuff like that, sometimes we'd sit on them and the teacher would get really upset.
Yeah.
Really upset
Mm.
because we didn't really have that respect. We didn't understand what the drum really meant,
Mm.
represented. And like
Mm.
Edison was saying about the animal being killed and all of these type of things, how it's going to represent you through that culture,
Mm.
So we started to learn these things about the respect for the drum, that the drum it's just not it's not just the instrument,
Mm.
it connects us so much to this ancestral and spiritual world, So
Yeah, for
I
real.
just wanted to add that as well, that what Edison brought that memory back to me.
Mm.
Um, Also, what Curtis was saying when he was talking about uh, um, Delroy Binns.
Mm.
Delroy Binns is Jaddy Uncle, who is Anthony Walker's uncle,
Yeah, yeah.
James, so you can understand who he is
Okay.
Mm.
now.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay, you know who Anthony Walker is, the
Yeah.
young youth who got killed. So he's his
Boss.
uncle, and he was a musician and a teacher of a lot of youngsters, and he formed a band in Liverpool,
Mm.
in the late 90s and so on. But
Mm.
I want to go back to Chase's point where he's talking about young people
Yeah.
and in terms of how we can reach them, And like you say, music is a great medium. We would talk about hip hop and stuff like that, but music is a great medium. You can always reach them through music, dance, even sport, poetry. All of these avenues are there for the youth to explore. I myself, after left sound system world, I went into food, as you know,
Mm.
and I used to run a program called "The Hungry Must Be Fed."
Mm.
And I had a little motto which I took from Richard Braithwaite when he was doing his Silky Skills. And
Yeah,
he had
man. Mhm.
Silky Skills, cultural awareness through football. And
Mm.
I said, boy, I want to use that, Bridge, and I like that.
Mm.
So I used The Hungry Must Be Fed, cultural awareness through food. So you can get this cultural awareness through food, sport, music, poetry. These are all the arts, and all the
Mm.
sciences. You just need to add that cultural awareness to it. Leonard Jeffries, when he came to Liverpool, said, many of us might not be interested in Shakespeare, English literature, science, and all of these things. But if you add cultural awareness and African, you know, an African center to them, that's when you become interested, you know, and that kind of stuck in my mind, you know, as a young man, hearing him say that, yeah, we wasn't into reading Shakespeare and English literature and certain things, but if you add that cultural aspect to it, it definitely brings an interest. And I think this is how we need to tackle the youth. We need to bring them in to the things that they like as well, and then add that cultural awareness to it, whether it be grime music that they're listening to now, or hip hop or reggae. You know, we need to add that cultural awareness to that aspect of whatever subject that they want to engage in. So that's for Chase.
Powerful.
You know, there's so many avenues you can go to down there. You know, like I said, right now I'm dealing with food, and I think food is a good avenue because food tells such a history.
Yeah.
Because even the food of the Caribbean, how it got there, where it came from, you know, and that relates you back to different parts of the world and also Africa, and that starts a conversation, and it's bringing them in slowly, you know, because sometimes you can just jump in the deep end and people can get put off, or you know, they don't know where you're coming from. But if you bring them into a food environment where everybody likes to chat around food, well, then you bring them in slowly, you know.
Right.
So maybe me and you could link up at some time, Chase.
Yeah, man. Well, that's a brilliant point anyway, that Errol, you know, hopefully like Chase caught on to some of these things, because I think you have to sometimes bring ideas together, different people bringing ideas together, and to be able to impact this, because sometimes it's not as easy as what you think, but a lot of those elements he mentioned, you know, these are very important. All the sports, like you've just said, the music, this, that, and putting the cultural awareness element in there, the consciousness.
In there, yeah.
That's
Makes it more
totally right. I mean, me personally, I've been spitting bars for over 20 years. I don't even talk to people about I spit bars. But at the end of the day, I just started off like anyone, where you're just trying to rhyme, put words together, you know, sometimes play with the wordplay, you know, sometimes try and be that creative, sometimes go really deep, sometimes I'll talk about stuff of the place I've been around the world and that. But like I say, I only keep it to the select few, only few I've allowed into my circle to listen to anything I do. But one thing that I can say is that as I started becoming more conscious, I started realizing, you know what? I've got to be thinking of, like, if you used to play this music around certain youth, what are they going to think about? You come with all this violence, or come with all stuff that they don't need to be listening to. And then I realized that, you know what? Reading all these books, traveling these places, meeting all these indigenous peoples, speaking to African peoples, interviewing them, learning so much, so I ain't got no excuse anymore to have to, you know, I can put the rhymes together in a way where to uplift our people. You know what I'm saying? Because everyone, when you're first trying to write any music, you know, you're trying to learn how to be a musician. That's the fair thing. But once you suss out that, you know, you've always got to look at like who's listening to us, because there's always people coming up after you who will be influenced by your music, just like as we see today. I mean, hip hop. I was into the hip hop early, but then I started seeing that when it went over to like the West Coast and the NWA, great artists, talented, love Ice Cube and all that, but it was you could see that the push to divide the conscious people like the Rakims, the KRS Ones, and certain other artists and that. So I want to bring you into Chase, because I know with yourself, we're speaking on music now. You've been connected. You work with the Wu-Tang Clan, and they are actually my favorite rap group as a group. So tell us about that, brother. And what was it like working with some conscious? Tell us about some conscious rappers you've worked with, because we know that you can get all them other ones where all the other negativity. But tell us some about the positive, conscious brothers that you picked up on, Chase, like the Wu-Tang and other people like that. Hello, you there, Chase? Chase,
No.
Chase. Turn your mic off, Chase.
Sorry, man.
Yeah, tell us.
The audio went down when I turned off my phone. I couldn't hear you. You asked me a question?
Yeah, man, you work with Wu-Tang. We were speaking about music. You work with the Wu-Tang Clan.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us a bit about that. These are Conscious brothers, and like, tell us a bit about, your journey with the music, meeting these type of people.
Yeah,
Fun.
well, I
Yeah,
mean, can you hear me?
I can hear you clear.
Well, I mean, yeah, talk about most conscious brothers. I mean, I worked closely with the Jizza and everything like that. As you know, they're doing they're set up to do their final tour now and working on releasing their latest album, um, and everything like that. But what's great about the Wu is that, I mean, consciousness was a huge part of their whole makeup because it's kind of like, it's kind of like what I had wanted to say. Like, I don't want to. I'm not negative, yeah, but like, I didn't like what I don't like is how when people look at young black people, they always talk about sports and music, rap and DJing, and I mean, like,
Yeah.
like, dude, that's first of all, that's so old, but it's not that which defines people nowadays. Like when I go into schools now, it's all about when I go in there with our podcasting microphones and we present them the chance to sit in front of the mic and express themselves. They are totally into it, bro. Let them just speak. They don't have to perform for you. Let them use their mind. You know what I mean? And
Mm.
that's what the Wu-Tang was all about. If you think about the science behind their lyrics, man,
Ooh,
their
powerful.
lyrics has a form of mathematics, a form of astronomy, a
Mm.
form of science. It's like it's pure, you know, um, pure intelligent stuff that is put into the lyrical format, and nobody was used to hearing that. Nobody, what the fuck, excuse my language, sorry. Um, nobody was used to hearing that. You know what I'm saying? And that's what these brothers was all about. I mean, like, you know, uh, RZA was just on some podcast and he was talking, and he dropped some rhymes and everything from his Grave Diggers album and stuff like that. And it was just like when you see it on the text, it's like, what the hell is he saying? These are all scientific big ass words and everything, but it's it's fun. It's like Anansi. You know what I mean?
Teachers. These are
He's
teachers.
spinning stories, man.
Yeah.
You know, with intellectualism and
Mm.
like so what I'm enjoying seeing is when I go into the schools that I have been in and seeing young people just get on the microphone and talk, express themselves, share what their thoughts are. They never get a chance to do that. They're on TikTok for 2 seconds,
Yeah.
sharing pictures and doing dumb things and all that other kind of stuff. And all we're about is like, look, just kind of like share what you know, like your knowledge of what you either studied or investigated that we've asked you to do, And so when I say, well, let's look at that as far as Black excellence, let's look at like, sports, as far as like back in the day when there were female softball leagues, Black female softball leagues, like the Owls, you know what I
Mm.
mean? Where there was like people doing stuff that you never even heard of, you know what I mean, and stuff. So I'm sorry if I keep going on the same thing, but hopefully you feel I'm consistent. I'm talking to my, and so that's what the Wu-Tang are, man. And I mean, yeah, they were great. It was great, experience. Work with them in the '90s and stuff like that, and they're true to their nature. But what's the last thing I'll say about them is they were ultra geeks, bro. And
Mm.
it's like you figure, oh man, I heard all these stories. I mean, like drugs and guns and all that other kind of stuff. Wu-Tang weren't about that, man. They were all about, kung fu movies and
Mm.
superheroes and comic books and
Yeah.
everything, you know what I mean? But then again, is they can't portray that like to the public when they did get on camera and stuff. But if you listen to their music, that's what they were all about.
Nah,
Right.
nice one, nice one.
Deep, right.
Yeah, Curtis. Anyway, I'm sure you definitely relate to this one.
Mm.
Like you've just said, Jay, brilliant points about the science and all that stuff. These are inspiration for all of us, man. Curtis, you want to follow up on Chase or bring what you want to bring? Or you were saying something before about when you speak to Edison.
No, I don't. I think it was when I was just talking. I can't remember now, but
Yeah. Anyway.
yeah,
Yeah.
man. I don't know. We when KRS was over, that was fun. The
Yeah. I
last
went to
time he
see
came
him.
Yeah,
in
yeah.
2017, because
Yeah.
we went to see him when he was on in the Casimir,
I
and
see
then
him
we
in
all
Liverpool.
yeah we all went up to the Huddersfield, didn't we? And did a gig over there with him. That was
Okay.
yeah, that was amazing, man. You know what I mean? It was just like he's so down to
Yeah.
earth. Do you know what I mean? Because he had him in Lodge Lane, didn't he? And all that, going to the cafes and stuff like that when he first came over. I think he came 3 times. So
Okay.
that was interesting anyway. It was fun. Do you know what I mean? But
Well,
he
Janice
was
Myers did a song with KRS One when he come to Liverpool. You
oh,
aware
did
of
she?
that? Yeah,
Did he
you
put
can
it
go on
on that
YouTube.
album on the album that he made?
On KRS One's album.
Oh yeah.
I was big up to there.
And
Yeah.
what's his name? Barry did Barry K what's he called himself? Barry KO or something. He's on it as well. He's one of the
Okay.
younger rappers. But he's on it, yeah, man. He got on that album as well. Didn't none of them got a penny off it, but you'd be made up, wouldn't you? Do you know what I mean?
Well, it's exposure, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. But that was fun. That was interesting. Do you know what I mean? It was a good night. That positive. When RZA was on stage. Where was that? Was that the? I can't remember what
I'm
venue
aware he
that was
comes to
at.
Liverpool. I
Yeah,
don't
when
know
RZA came,
where.
I mean, he got us all up on the stage in the end, man.
Yeah.
Me,
Ghostface Killer
CL,
came as well. Yeah.
yeah, and then we went to the Magnet, and he was just like blending in the Magnet. Remember the Magnet?
I remember the Magnet well.
Yeah, man, he was
Shame
just
that
blending
went.
in there.
That
I
was all right.
know.
It was all right.
Too many bloody them in there, man. Do you know what I mean? Stunk in there of that because of that. It was a good club, but that smell
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
people who do all that, man, it's fine. Sorry. This just ruined it. Do you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
yeah, RZA was down to earth. He just blended with everybody and all the local rappers and that. And then he chat the next day.
Was he
It
playing
was
chess down here
yeah,
as
he was
well?
playing chess in the Caribbean
See,
Centre, man. It just shows you how vital that place
the
is.
black man invented
Yeah,
chess.
that was an amazing day because Yao and all them were there, and it was when Kof was coming up, wasn't it?
Mm.
And he was like documenting it all. I wonder where all that is actually. But yeah, anyway, that was a good that was again he just came and blended. But I'll tell you my biggest disappointment was I gotta say, J. Rue, man. You know when they say don't meet your heroes sometimes. Because J. Rue just come looking for, you know what I mean, for women.
Ja
And
Rule. Did you say Ja Rule?
J. Rue the Damager.
Oh, see, okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
man.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Do you remember him? Do you remember him? DJ was he
Uh,
did all he was nerdy too because all his it was all about him defeating ignorance. Like he made characters out of principles and did a whole rap about it.
yeah.
Yeah, man, he was one of my favorites in the 90s. And again, when he came down, I was glad I was made up. I dropped everyone off, right? Nicky Blaze and her mates and all then, and TL was there and dropped them all off. And I just didn't like the vibe, man, because I knew he was just sniffing. He was just like
Uh,
a sniffer dog. Do you know what I mean? And then it ended up
yeah,
where
yeah.
he ended up giving TL a bit of grief because he just was there for
Uh,
one bum, and I just thought, you know what? I'm so glad I just went home that night, man, because that would have been disgraceful.
sound like a hectic night,
Yeah,
man.
yeah,
But,
but it's funny though.
yeah,
At
yeah.
least they've all got Liverpool stories anyway. All these like well-known 1990s so on rappers. Do you know what I
Mm.
mean? They've all had like got to meet the locals and see what it's like here.
Yeah, well, interesting
Mm,
anyway,
mm,
stories and that. Patrick, I'm sure you
yeah.
got a few stories as well, anything you want to add to this, Patrick? Feel free. Or add on.
Well, only just to take it back on like the power of music, because
Yeah,
just looking at music, um, and and like history and all that. History is like roots. History is like a foundation of a building. It's important. You know what I mean? The stronger the foundation, the longer the building will last, the deeper the roots, the stronger the tree. And roots is an important thing. You know what I mean? In anything. Just I'm going to just grab different points what people have mentioned about from what Edison was talking about the power of the drumming and what it influence it had on people, and and what Errol mentioned about sitting on the drums, and it wasn't just an instrument.
Sacrilege there, Errol.
Even
Yeah.
even the word instrument itself, you know what I
Mm,
mean? Instrument is a powerful word because instrument is like a connector to something, you know what I mean? And something
mm.
is, use instruments to perform this, to perform
To
that,
build
and
pyramids.
it's like instruments are important in connecting things, you know what I mean? And
Mm,
like, but the power of music, if you think of music, if we're happy, we've got a certain tune that we can play, or
mm,
tunes, if we're sad, we've got certain tunes that we can play. If we're, just on a vibe, there's a certain tune that we can play. If you're a driver and you drive, you've got certain music that you play. Music is a healing tool, you know what I mean? And like, I
mm,
remember a few years back, Errol went with me. We just um, this talk we went on. I can't remember the guy who done the talk, but he was talking about blue notes in music.
mm,
And like he was like me, this guy, his hearing wasn't that good. And when he followed music, when he explained certain things, I thought, wow, that's how I listen to music myself.
mm,
Because not everybody can do this, because blue notes are in, maybe not in a djembe beat, but in certain type of other beats. There's these notes that are called blue notes and that have been around for a long time, and you tap into people in different ways and affect them emotionally in different ways. And when your hearing isn't that good, it's something that you're more perceptive to, you know what I mean, to pick up on that. And when he explained these blue notes, for me anyway, personally, it was like, wow, yeah, that's why I listen to music. And there is parts of certain tunes that just really get into your soul, you know what I mean? Because someone who's got good hearing might not hear them saying notes, but it's almost like you're hearing the energy of not just the music, but the earth itself, you know what I mean? And like, it was really powerful. Our kid might be able to add to it from memory wise a bit more. But Blue Notes, he said, he took it back from a historical point of, to something the ancient Egyptians knew about, and all the music that was talked about from what Edison saying, Curtis saying, or Errol saying, and the drum beat, and how we can capture people's spirits and this and that. Blue Notes is a similar effect. It's a high type of frequency note that's always underlies certain tunes, you know what I mean? And like, it's really powerful. I can't really explain it as good as this guy did, you know what I mean? But when he explained it, I just totally connected with it because I thought he explained how his hearing works when he's listening to music, and the voices, you're not, the pitch of the voice you're not picking up, so you concentrate more on the rhythm of the music and the beat and the hidden tones within that music, which are known as blue notes.
mm.
And really, really powerful. So music is a really powerful thing. It has always been um, at the forefront of African culture, you know what I mean? I nearly use the word black, but African culture, you know what I mean? All different cultures. So whatever they practice and the different rituals and different types of spirituality might have had the differences, but they always had that underlying thing where music connected things and connected people to themselves and the history and the past. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's all I really wanted to add on that, you know what I mean?
Well, we've
On
gone
the
4 minutes
short
now. We've gone over, so you save to when we come back around anyway. Edison, anyway, you want to add on to this? I can see you're deep with the spiritual aspect and tapping into that realm, that spiritual world, deep. And this is how people doing science when we thinking about this sacred science.
This look, what I love is the fact that what everyone said. I love what Chase said about the podcast and how that gives a child the moment to express themselves, because no one wants to listen to the young black boys or the young black girls, and they've got stories, thoughts, ideas, perceptions that everyone just wants to stereotype and say, what do you do? And then judge them off that. So I love the fact that he's giving the children a chance to actually express what they think, because they've got their wisdom from their ancestral selves still, and they just don't get a chance to actually express it anywhere. So the fact that he's using a modern medium, which the children are saying, well, everyone's got a podcast, I can have a podcast, I can tell my story. It allows the creative part of them to wake up and actually be able to express themselves and tell stories that only unless you're in their group of people you would ever know. You just wouldn't know what they're doing. Again, that's that saying that as well. I wanted to express what Patrick and Curtis and what they've just said regarding music and the music. And I love the hip hop because I grew up, that was first love was jazz,
Mm.
jazz funk per se. Second love was hip hop when that came because we could never ever control the jazz. Hip hop was allowing you to use jazz music and be able to speak over it and be able to communicate and say it in your own words. But what I realized from the spiritual paradigm is music is a body language code. Whenever you hear someone's voice, oh, sorry, I forgot to mention reggae, because reggae was the classic where they were amongst the first after jazz or what have you, but in a clear way that they realized the tone that they used impacted different chakras on people's body.
Mm.
When you hear that bass, when you hear that sound, you know what to do. No one needed me to tell you. This was like sound narrative. Oh yeah, you hear that bass. Oh, you're looking. Yeah, no one needed to tell you what to do. You heard the bass, your body was gonna go. If it was roots music, it could slow your nervous system down to the point where all of a sudden you could sit there and that music would allow your system to shut down and you could reason.
Mm.
It would be give you the opportunity that where your mind was shut down from thinking and it just gave you a steady sound that allowed you to then have all the creative part of your mind come forward and express itself. Yeah. So people don't appreciate no matter how awkward, wicked, mad, happy you are, you listen to some type of music. You need some form, whatever it is, country, metal, but there's something that when you hear it, it separates you from yourself. You're now in a situation where whatever you was thinking has gone out of your brain. Whatever the instructions the music is saying, even if it's not saying nothing, the music itself is going to bring something out of you that's going to allow you to be able to reason with yourself. And a whole spiritual science thing, even communicating with words, there's a biochemical reaction. If someone doesn't speak to you and you don't feel it, you feel it because your body starts to alter as a result of what you said. So music is the leveler that doesn't actually need any words. Yeah, even the hip hop, all these kind of things, they're speaking to you. Sometimes you're hearing the lyrics, and then sometimes that becomes a track or a blueprint or a way in which you look at your life. But all of us, we don't remember anything, but play a tune and you'll be able to remember the rest of the tune.
Powerful, brother. Powerful. Yeah, Errol, bringing you in now. I'm sure you definitely relate to this. And, it's even the different instruments, for example, it's like it's having a relationship together, these relationships. And then, and reggae is a perfect example. If you want to follow up or add what you need to add, brother.
Patrick was trying to get a memory of the Blue Note, and Edison just summed it up. He really did. He didn't use the word Blue Note, but he just summed it up. Music needs no introduction. Bob Marley says it, when music hits, you feel no pain.
Feel no pain,
you
man.
know, it's when you hear that deep bass.
Yeah, that's the one. The
That's what
Caribbean
we're
Center
talking about.
on the carnival.
That's what we're talking about. That Blue Note. That it just does something to the vibrations of your body.
Totally. Feel that, man.
It don't need it, and when you're talking about Black liberation and the type of music, a burning spear, do you remember the days of slavery? When you hear the bass line on these tunes, you only have to hear that one line. The bass says everything else.
Yeah.
The bass is that Blue Note that just puts you into that atmosphere of that, that survival mode. Yes, we remember, and we remember that some of us survived. We are here today. Thank God that we are still around to tell the story, So he summed it up beautiful in all that you've just said, Edison. You just described the Blue Note to a T. And it's kind of, you see, when we're talking, that brother that we went to that lecture, Patrick, in Manchester, he said, a form of speech blue note amongst Black people is, when we're talking and we just go, mm-hmm. It's natural.
Yeah, man.
It just comes natural. And he said that's a form of blue note. It's because it's a connection without words.
Universally.
Yeah, it's a connection without words.
Yeah.
And it's powerful because it's a bass line within itself. The blue note starts from the drum. Because when we was in that drum group,
Delado, yeah.
when all the different drums were talking together, boy, there was some, like you say, Curtis, that vibration, that hum, that you hear underneath, especially when you're in the open air, and you just hear that buzz. It's you don't
harmonics.
even need words to describe it, it speaks to you,
man.
and you feel that connection to the earth. You feel that connection to Africa. It embodies you. Edison said it. What did the word he used? It's music is a body. I can't even remember the word you said, but it just resonated with me.
It's a body language code. It speaks to you, and you don't even know what it's saying. You just it just moves to it.
Definitely, so that blue note, you just summed it up. Patrick was trying to remember it, but yeah, that was definitely what it's all about. And like I say, that heavy bass line, and sometimes it needs no introduction, it needs no words. You just need to feel it, and you get the message.
Well, that's powerful.
And that's why music is a powerful medium. And that's why the sound system in the early 70s, coming to the 80s, was such a Black liberation, part of our Black liberation, especially in Britain growing up, going to African Lib, Carnival, and all of these different places. The music was a binder, and that message, whether you wanted to hear it or not, it was coming true. And many people were educated I say sometimes by mistake, because they may have not been interested in history and Black liberation, but you kept on hearing it in the music. So
that's it. Interesting point.
You just kept on hearing it. So whether you wanted to hear it or not, it was there.
But you know what, Errol, you kind of took the words out of my mouth there, where, like you've just said then, whether or not you were into history, whether or not you were, even if you were it could be new to you, the music, you can't ignore it. You might not be able to you might not be able to explain it, the spiritual side of it, the scientifical side of it, the sacred science, but you can't. There's something in you that's telling you. You already know the answer. It's unspoken. It's sort of like
definitely.
It's sort of like a language that, as Black people have, we have a language sometimes where we don't even have to speak. Sometimes we can just give each other a look. Sometimes we can be, like you said before, you can make certain noises and vibrations. We're vibrational beings. Totally, though.
Definitely.
So brilliant points. Anyway, I'm going to bring Chase in now. Anyway, so Chase, anything you want to add on, or go where you want to go, bro?
No, to be honest, I can't really hear very well.
I can't even see. You have to put. Look how you hide me on your theater.
I'm not hiding, man.
No, your
the Oscar goes
to. I can't get my audio back on, man. I mean, we
can hear you. We can hear you.
I know you can hear me. I'm talking about I can't hear you.
Well, you just
I know Errol was talking about liberation and stuff like that, but
Well, anyway, you just speak what you want to speak. We can hear you. We can hear you.
Yeah. What were we talking about?
All right.
Yeah, we can't hear.
You can talk about what you want to talk about, Black consciousness, whatever you. If you want to add on, fair enough.
Well,
I mean, again, I just feel like I would be repeating myself in a way, because I just feel that I know we're all speaking from different perspectives and everything else like that, and my main thing about it is I'm saying what I'm saying. There's nothing more I really can add on to that unless there was uh, um, a question to what I'm saying, like say like how it could be done or what should be done. I mean,
All
how
right,
important is it?
all
So
right,
I
let
will
me,
say
if you want me to ask you
to
a
add on
question
to
then?
like that liberation that Errol was mentioning there is that I will just say it's very important that young people know where they come from because we're doomed to repeat what has happened already for so many freaking years. Do you know what I mean? I mean, we have the internet. I did a talk the other day at the Baltic, and I said that how AI is the death knell of our society,
Mm.
because it's so easy, it's so cool, it's so good looking that it really just continues to wipe away the human potential. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, when people don't have the ability to communicate with one another and they don't feel that what they got to say is that important, I'm just kind of like I weep for the future that we have. So how about I throw that question out to everyone else? It's like, what is your thoughts around AI and like where we're going?
Good
Because
question.
I've been talking about the past. We've all been talking about the past, but where do people think we're going now that the future is changing amongst us? Please don't bring
So
politics into it, because then I will cut you off.
yeah,
Let me bring who's next to come in. I'm gonna bring
I'm talking about
Curtis in
AI,
next. Yeah,
naturally.
but
yeah.
I want to add
Go
to a little something what you've just said then, because with this AI, everyone's talking about this brilliant technology and all this. So I
on.
thought that was a good question. How we put it there, where we must fight against AI. Also, we also can use AI, but at the same time, AI doesn't have no feelings. If you know what I mean, like some people say you can write a book using AI. You can do music through AI. But one thing AI is never going to have is the feelings of us. I don't care how intelligent and how the future technology. They can rip out a human's heart and put it in AI or the mind. It's not going to. But it's a good tool to use it for take the best out of it. But there's no way
Yeah,
I can support using AI to be like for example, here's Patrick here. We don't need a Patrick AI. We don't need Patrick. We don't need a Errol AI, a Curtis AI, a James AI, Edison, yourself. So that's what I mean. This is kind of like cloning. I'm not with all this cloning and like it's just living a fake life, you know what I mean? Like some of these artists who talk about stuff that they never done in their life. It's
Mm.
all fabricated, and
Something we
that's all it's a
so
part of. Go on, Curtis.
something weird happened a few days ago on one of those quantum computers. They sparked it up, and then it came with some code as if it had been speaking to somebody, and then they had to shut it down because it's that dangerous. Because they use what they call qubits instead of having ones and zeros as binary,
yeah,
they can flip from one state to another. So they just did a computation that would have taken 10,000 years to do on a normal computer, even with AI. And that's
yeah,
scary when you're thinking of that because you don't know what it's doing because it's actually interacting with other dimensions through
Yeah,
quantum
yeah.
mechanics, through quantum
Okay.
physics, you get me?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Humans were just daft. We think we can do it. So let's just do it and see what happens. You know what I mean? Rather
Mm.
than let's look what the safeguards are and what the parameters are going to be. And do you know what I mean? But instead, but like, let's see what happens if you do a bit of that with that and stick a bit of that in there. And
I
it's
think
like,
that, but
like a
don't you think the
Subway
dangers
sandwich.
are that they're going to replace us in our jobs and everything else?
Yeah, but that's what that's
You
it's
know what I
weird
mean?
because people sort of on the more like liberal side of politics in this country even they want like a form of communism where the robots are doing all the work so we can just hang around parks and stuff like that
You see,
with no
you
motivation.
see,
Do you know what I mean?
I understand there's a
Bizarre.
conspiracy side of this. Some people don't see the conspiracy. Some people thinking, oh, the robots do all the jobs, then we can just sit back and
That's what
relax.
I mean. They're
No,
saying this, and
I can't
it's
see that.
stupid
You'll
thing
have
to
other
say.
plans
Yeah.
for us,
It
other
sounds like
plans.
a dystopian movie or
Yeah.
something, you know, what I mean, like a sci-fi idea. It's just, It's daft. It's champagne socialists. It's the ones who've got loads of, got a trust fund and all that, so they can spend all the time boycotting everybody. You know what I'm saying? That's what they do. That's what they're about, because they're sort of Marxist in a sense, you get me? So they think everyone should just, I mean, it's a good idea, isn't it? Like communism's a great idea. But George Orwell illustrated in Animal Farm, it just doesn't work. It's never worked properly. Like people just become greedy as usual because. So I don't know. Have you seen that? Anyone seen the film The Creator?
Sounds
Where there's
interesting.
in the future there's a war between AI and humans, like a proper full-on global war. It's just a
Nice.
warning. It's just a warning. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
But
hopefully,
it's in yeah.
we figure that out. You know what I mean? Because this is why we got to be independent as Black peoples, and we've got to arm ourselves with the knowledge to be able to combat these things. Rather than just have the youth just going along with stuff, and next minute everyone's end up like robots in the future. I'm seeing themselves. So I mean, anything you want to add on, Patrick, or to what Kate was saying, or
No, but
speak
just
about what?
about AI in general.
Yeah.
For me, AI, rather than even use the term AI, let's spell it out exactly what it is. Artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
So it's not real. So it's
Yeah.
artificial intelligence. So therefore it can't even be intelligence if it's artificial. Yeah. So that's one problem for me for it. Not real. In the past, and even still today, when people think of AI, artificial intelligence, they're thinking of things like robots and this and that. But I've been saying this for a good few years. Artificial intelligence is somebody who will watch the news, will read the newspaper, and whatever it tells them, that's fact. And they're not, it doesn't matter what they see, what they experience in real life, they're not, which is completely different from what they're reading or hearing on the news. They're going with what they read and hear. And to me, that's artificial intelligence in that form, you know what I mean? And then these programs, like you said, James, about it has no emotion and no feelings, and it never will. So it can't replicate that. You know what I mean? There's an interesting discussion on local radio a few weeks back where they're talking about certain musicians are losing out on monies because people are using artificial intelligence to create songs and whatnot. And it's costing musicians their livelihoods, you know what I mean? Because they're not needed to make songs in that sense. And you can actually, just by interviewing the woman that they were talking to, they could, with her voice then, they could just use that voice and then create a completely different sentence, which even she was convinced, that's me, that's my voice, but I know I didn't say that. And that's how dangerous artificial, people are using it to con people, people using phone calls. So
that's right.
And it sounds like their son or their daughter saying, Mum, Dad, I'm such and such, I need money, send it to me.
It's
And all
dangerous,
they know is
man.
this is my daughter,
Yes.
this is my son's voice. You know what I mean? And artificial intelligence is doing that. And then people are transferring money to them thinking they are generally stuck somewhere and then find out they're being ripped off. You know what I mean? It's a dangerous thing. It might have its uses, but it's dangerous for me outweigh its uses. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm totally with you on
far
that.
outweighs its uses. And as I said, the fact that it's, intelligence is one thing. Intelligence means what it means, intelligence. But as soon as you put that word artificial in front of it, to me, it's a contradiction in terms. You can't have artificial intelligence. It cannot be intelligence if it's artificial. You know what I mean? So there's a whole con going on there, and people can't see the wood for the trees. You know what I mean? And that's where the danger comes, because they assume it is intelligent. No, it's not. It's artificial intelligence, so therefore it's not intelligence at all. It's artificial. It's fake. It's not real.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's where the danger lies, because people are conned into it, and this information, as Chase said at the top of the program, information is power. And when you're using artificial intelligence, this AI models to put out information, there's great power that's being used to corrupt people, and great power being taken away from people because they're not allowed to think and process and do things for themselves. And as I said, people are losing livelihoods over it as well. So yeah, it's not good.
Interesting. Edison, anything you want to add on to this, or
Yeah, I
to
got some
yourself?
uses, but
I
not.
got first, Frank. Sorry. I got
No, just
first.
saying there's some good uses, but overall there's a lot of bad comes out of it. Although there is, I'm not going to say it's 100% bad because that wouldn't be being realistic and honest. But there is good uses for it. But within a society where, like what Kurt is saying, communism is a great idea, but it's not the idea that's wrong. It's people.
No,
It's like religion's a
yeah,
great idea, a great belief system, but then individuals within them corrupt it and use it for their own nefarious ends. So it's
all
like
right.
any system, you know what I mean?
Yeah. We're
So,
gonna continue on anyway. Edison, if you want to add on, or it's
Yeah,
up to you.
first I want to thank Chase for the question, because when it comes to Black consciousness, a lot of what Black consciousness is suffering with is that you have been given artificial AI.
Yeah,
Education is artificial AI. God is an artificial AI, because what it effectively suggests is that you don't have this intelligence within you to be able to create what you do. How you see is an intelligence you don't know. How you hear and speak and feel is separate intelligences that you don't know, that you don't classify that. It all happens in your dark matter. So that is the original Black consciousness. We're in this situation now where people have machines, as Curtis was saying, the quantum machine that renders information so fast, it can now speak to other spirits and other energies and other dimensions. All a computer does, or AI does, is just render all the database, all the internet at such a speed that it can pull information quicker than you can, because you unfortunately have emotions. You actually feel what you're thinking about. You actually have some sense of moral situation which the computer doesn't have. So all AI is really doing is just saying, okay, we don't have no emotions. We can render information. We've got massive computers using that quantum machine needs a whole city, isn't it? Power worth of energy to run it. So it's using so much power that you don't know that you have within yourself, because you're stuck in all these emotional thoughts and memories and what have you. So you are within your mind, have the original God self AI. It's AI because you don't know what you have. If you can teach the children that they're capable of everything, they're gone. But the problem is, you're going to give them, and this is the problem, with the rise of technology comes the stupidity of people. They don't
yeah,
actually know anything anymore. Everything they do is, I want to use a computer. In the old days, we used to have mental arithmetics. Now,
And the abacus, the
yeah,
abacus rather than the big
our brains could
spendy calculator in your phone.
our brains could visually process information quickly
Mm,
because we were allowed to, we were expected to, but now you don't need to. This is going to
mm,
do it for you. This is
yeah.
going to do it for you. So you're robbing a man's capacity to be his highest or intelligent self, because what you've effectively done is told him that God, this, that, education means that we're going to give you a set of information, and this is the parameter by what you've got to do all your thinking. So we're all the time robbing the children in the idea that we're giving them something which they're supposed to use, because it's better phones, everyone lines up for that, quicker games, different type of things. Look what you said about the music. I have a friend of mine very close that can make music on AI. That's better than an artist that's making music on AI, making the music generally from the spirit. So the guy's like, oh, how do you say? I'm downloading something from my mind, from my consciousness to actually make as a song. And he just says, yeah, that's nice. Do, 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 do. He's got his song better than what he did. So
Mm.
all that is because the computers are rendering information at a speed that your mind can't do because of its emotional attachment to life. So we're in this situation where AI, look what I said, God is an AI. So they make a movie called The Creator versus Humans, because now they're going to say the new creator is an AI, because it's moving so fast that you can't think at that speed. And it's now going to make all your decisions, because essentially it can basically run so many permutations of situations that you can't do because nobody told you that you was a permutation machine. Nobody told you that you was a predicting machine. Nobody told you that before you leave your house, you've had 1,000 different thoughts on what could happen when you go outside. No one said that that's prediction, but that's what your mind's essentially doing. So if they actually told you what you was and how you function and how you actually interact with this world, you could bring all of that to yourself. But what they tell you is pray to God. Pray for what's going to happen to you today. Pray what's going to happen here or happen there. So you're now in this situation where you are the original AI. The intelligence within you is beyond what anything can happen. That's why they're only ever trying to replicate a human, and they can't do it. Look at a woman giving birth to a child. What are the calculations going on there? Well, look at you actually impregnating the woman. What are the calculations going on there? What's it, 1 in a million? Come on, you're doing that every time you let out your load. So let's get it twisted. You're more intelligent than any computer that could ever exist. But the fact is, I've got to tell you that you're a human. You can't do anything. You have to wait on someone to tell you. There's a God there trying to protect you. And AI is your new best friend because it will allow you to be the God that you're not knowing that it's stealing from all that you've created in order to feed it back to you.
That's powerful. Interesting. Errol, you want to add on to this?
Great points. Great. Before I lose my train of thought, it made some great points there, Edison, because
move back a bit, Errol, so I can see your full.
Sorry.
That's better.
AI
That's better.
Like you always hear people talking about the mark of the beast.
Yeah, man.
Buy or sell, unless you have the mark. I mean, the AI is coming like that. It's dumbing down your senses as well as your creativity.
Yeah.
And in the future, it looks like, as Edison is saying, people not able to think for themselves no more. They give us a parameter how to think, and
it
feel. Really started with little music box computers and stuff like that, where even within the reggae music now, you barely will hear the instrumental. Why? Because there's no musicians, there's no saxophone players. When Tommy McCowan and certain people pass away, Sly Dunbar, Robbie Shakespeare, and all of these people, when they pass away, that's it. There's no more drummers. There's no more saxophone players. There's no more organ players. The musicians are dying out because a man can just go into his house now and create a beat on a little box. And next thing you know, he doesn't even need a promoter. He just posts it on YouTube. And next thing you know, he's got 1 million hits and he's making money, So it's dumbing down our senses and it's stopping the creativity within the music, especially the music industry as well. And then, like you say, all these little gadgets, the iPhones, the PlayStations, they're all part of the AI. They're the fairly early stages of AI. They were just warming us up for when AI has hit, like it's hitting now, because most children now, from the wake up, they're on the phone. I have to say to my grandchildren, I've seen somebody write on the Facebook the other day, it's amazing when your grandchildren are saying hello to the phone and the PlayStation or good morning before they even say it to you.
Yeah.
And I got exactly what the person meant, because these gadgets are just taking over people's lives, and that's just that's the warm up for this when this AI hits in full, and it's the way I see it, it's making all aspects of creativity suffer. Because like I say, we grew up in a time without computers where, there was how many phone numbers could you remember, Edison, growing up?
Yeah, man, nothing. Everybody.
As a young man, if you needed to go to the phone box and phone mom, dad, auntie, whoever, you had them in your head. Now, You
You've
can't
got to,
remember any because they're all in the
yeah,
phone with the
Just about
name.
remember your
That's
own
three
number.
numbers.
yeah, for
That's
real,
three
Yeah, and
numbers.
you just press the
for real,
button.
man.
So that dumbs down your creativity, that dumbs down your senses, it dumbs down so much parts of your body and that vibration that you should be dealing with, like Edison said, and that creativity that now everyone just relies on these machines, and
Yeah, man.
yeah, it's a sad thing. It's a real sad thing, and I don't know how we're going to combat it
I think
because
you know
it's out
what.
there already.
You know what, right?
And
You're old school. I'm old school.
Mm.
There's some people who are old school. There's some things we can move on, and we can take the best from something. But like Patrick said before, the overall, you weigh it up. It's doing more damage than good. You know
yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
the society is going to
That's
gravitate to it,
you
you
know.
know.
I ain't for it, and I'm not for these machines taking people's jobs. And if I go in like the Tesco or one of them shops, I don't use self-service unless I have to. It's a certain time.
Yeah,
I'd
exactly,
rather go
exactly.
and put my
Yeah.
stuff on the till and
Yeah.
and see a person, and
Yeah.
just and that's it. Give the money, pay
Have
your
you seen
card,
all
whatever.
the
You know
bottles
what I
of
mean?
spirits now, and like they sound like they're gonna explode when you put it up, when you do the barcode? It starts like screaming its head off. That's bloody AI of the worst.
Yeah. So
Really, that's
let me
terrible.
Yeah, man.
let me get round on another point now because we've dealt with AI, we've dealt with music. I
Mm,
want us to before then that we finish off like connect to the other side of things like we can look at the future. What is the future for like black youth? And I don't want to just mention AI. I'd rather go in another direction because we should be looking at the natural ways on how we can do things because we are the natural people. Sometimes the AI can be cheating, like your Errol said, taking away your creativity. So at the end of the day, what you see the future for our youth? Chase, you ready?
Why do you keep starting with me?
Because I'm going round in turns. Don't you want your turn? I can go to someone else if you want. You want to
Yeah.
miss this turn?
No, I mean, I want to answer the question, but I mean, give me a second.
Well,
Hit somebody else first and come back to me.
all right. All right then. Curtis, are you on your phone? All right then. Patrick.
Yeah, no, just that quickly,
Yeah, go ahead,
because I
man.
don't have that much to say on this. But just
Yeah,
finishing off my AI point before,
yeah,
um, you know, yeah, I agree all that up and down. I said I used to know loads of numbers, phone numbers back in the day when I worked in the advice sector, you know what I mean? But now I know my own and that's it. I lost my phone. I couldn't even phone anyone except myself. I don't know nobody, don't even know my own son's number off by heart. I learned it one time, used it a few times by just dialing it from memory, and then I got lazy and just went back to the old way and just put in P and his name come up and dialed. So I don't even know that anymore. You know what I mean? So in an emergency, I wouldn't even have anybody to phone but the system. I created a computer. It's like what Edison says, you know what I mean? But for me, a computer is only can only be as smart as the human who makes it. Can't be smarter. Yeah. So it's a con job when they tell you that it is smart. It's not. It's only as smart as the people who make it. And the problem with people, they're fallible. You know what I mean? They're corrupt. And so therefore, the AI they create is there to corrupt. Like our kid said, the mark of the beast, basically. You know what I mean? You've got to trade and do all these things through AI and whatever. And
Patrick. Let me ask you the question involving this as well.
it just does things, just to finish that point,
Go
what
on,
it
but I
does
want
is
to ask you
things
the
faster.
question.
It just does things faster, calculates things
Yeah,
faster, but a human told it to do that, that's all. It will just do it
yeah.
faster. And that gives the illusion of being smarter when it's not.
One
It's only as
question. Let
smart
me
as the
pop in the
person who creates
question.
it.
Let
Go
me
on.
pop in the question to you. Because some people see AI as going to be used as a race weapon as well as against black people. I don't know if you've heard that. I've heard this before. What do you think on that?
Well,
Um,
it depends what you mean by race weapon. I know one thing, a lot of people of color are being targeted because
Yes.
facial recognition systems
Yeah.
are made to only deal with recognizing white faces mainly.
Yeah.
So it misrecognizes when it comes to people of color. You get people getting targeted to being somebody they're not. You know what I mean? Because it's not built, it's not designed for them. They're not taken into account. You know what I mean? And that's just, you know, that's for a lot of things. You know what I mean? But
Weaponized against us.
yeah. So it's I don't know about weaponized or that, but that's just one of the fallacies of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When they're creating these things, they're not thinking of black. It's like anything. It's like when they're thinking of certain health and skin conditions, they're looking at curing certain skin conditions based on color.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
they're not interested in black skin, so it doesn't work for that. When it comes to fancy creams, when it comes to this, even down to, you know, you've got to get specialists who make prosthetic limbs in your color of your skin, because they only make them in white. You know what I mean? And white colors generally. And if you want one in your own color as a black person, it most probably costs 2 and 3 times more. You've got to go private. And you know, generally
Good
the
point.
NHS
Yeah,
don't do
man.
that.
I know.
And this has been a big problem for years. You know what I mean? It's not. It's not. This has been going on for years, and no matter how much people complained, it's still the scenario. You know what I mean? So, you know, black person who needs the limb replacement from the knee down is given a white limb. You know what I mean? Not even one that matches the colour of the skin. If they want that, they're told they've got to pay extra. You know what I mean? So all these type of things are going on. But AI, yeah, it is useful and can be very useful and is very useful, but it's also extremely dangerous. You know what I mean? And that
Yeah.
outweighs the useful elements of it. Not to say do away with it, because the useful elements, but just remember people are people, they're corrupt, they're fallible. You know what I mean? They're not good. So they use it mainly to a badness. You know what I mean? And that's the makers of it, especially, because one, it dumbs you down, as we've all recognized. You know what I mean? It stops you doing this and stops you doing that because it's too easy. I know I wasn't the best speller in the world, but as a writer, I make a lot of spelling mistakes, but I do it knowing that, you know, it shows up with a red line because you just use the spell check to correct it. You know what I mean? And you know, sometimes I'm losing the ability to spell certain words that were quite easy for me. You know what I mean? And the more I type and the more I use computer, that's what's happening.
Yeah.
The
Interesting.
spelling
Yeah.
is degrading.
All right. All right. Well, anyway,
Oh,
Edison, if you want to
yes,
add on to this or bring what,
yeah,
but
no,
let me ask you the question also, because I know you're deep on some of these things as well.
mm,
Do you see like this AI or this artificial intelligence is? I don't know. I don't want to use the word. Is it open? Would you say it's opening up to these demons? I don't. Like I said, I don't want to use that word,
point there.
or
Let me-
reptilians or whatever. Whatever. Everyone has different words. What they want to use, energy forces, whatever you want to call it, whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay, all right, we'll go back there. I wanted to start off because I had wrote something down to be,
Okay.
but I want to go there. If I do it quickly enough, I can get it in the 3 minutes. But
Okay.
effectively, there's the old saying, if you can't beat them, lead them. Yeah, and
Rather
we're
than
in a
join them.
paradigm where we
Yeah.
have to use AI because that's here to stay. That's not going anywhere. So if we can actually get to the point where we stop complaining and started creating apps and AI, we can teach all the history, all the mysteries, all the ideas, all the concepts through the thing that is in trending right now. We can get to that point where a child is going to go there and they're going to see a Black history or Black conscious AI or app that's going to help them get through what they need to get through. So all our history and all our stuff can be given to them, but in the format that now that they're actually reading on or thinking on or how their mind works. So we can still get everything across because we got the books, we got the stories, we got the histories, we got all of those things. But we can't tell them if we're using words, putting them in books where AI is what they're looking for. So we can introduce the AI if we want to get off our backsides and stop complaining and start getting into the technology and start being able to add what we know into a format that the kids can actually get to. Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
that in a nutshell. So on the other question of forces and energies, we are behind because we're still in the point where we're fighting fair. These people actually understand
Yeah.
how you work, how
Yeah.
your mind works, what the limit of what you can comprehend and what the limit of you can't comprehend. They've actually got to the point where they've been able to work out the frequency of certain sounds that create certain emotions in you when you hear them. So we're way behind. Yeah, we're still in that point where we're saying, oh God, or this or more.
Mm.
No, they're using whatever they
Yeah,
can.
they're using their microwaves to disperse crowds, yeah, man, and it goes into your head, and you kind of have to obey.
I know what you
They can
mean. I know what you mean.
It
Yeah.
paralyzes you for a few seconds.
they can create
Yeah.
sound that shuts you down. That when
Yeah.
you're in that environment, they press a frequency. Look, everyone, they speak from the goiter, they speak from their voice box. You have a thought, it transfers to your voice box. Your voice box encodes a sound, and then your tongue propels that sound outside of your mouth. So essentially, if you can hear the frequency of what's taking place in a person's voice box and you can mimic that, you can actually introduce what emotion you want that person to have and put it on a wide scale, put it on a stuff where the person, nobody's hearing that, but your body is actually impacted. The way we've been talking about music and all this kind of thing, this is not something which they don't know. They can let you play in your toys and your ideas and your concepts because you're not impacting them. But the level of the intelligence that they know, this is why it saddens me, because we go around in circles trying to find a way to basically fight against someone who literally knows us inside out because they're working on the science. We're working on the emotions. We're waiting for a God to come and strike them down. They ain't got them problems because they don't believe in that, because they gave you that concept in the first place. So these guys are working on a level of science, which means you're shut down. So therefore, when you're in a point where you're seeing your children not listening to your parents and you're blaming the parents, when this child is listening to music that is telling the child that it's okay to go and hurt someone, okay to go and do something. And this is the music that's going to be thrown money behind it, where the one that is conscious is not going to get no
Oh
bonus.
yeah.
No one's going to give anything to that conscious music. You're going to only hear it on a local radio. But on a mass level, the one that is telling them to go and do all of this thing, because they know that in the music is the programming, and that's going to enable the person, the child, to actually think in that negative way. So we're in a situation where we really need to take control of the intelligence and the technology there, and not sit there saying that we wish, we wish, we wish. You can wish till that day, but until you do something, nothing is going to change.
All right. Nice anyway. All right. Errol,
Yeah, I'm ready now.
oh, you missed your turn, bro. Well, go on. Go on then, Chase. Go on then.
Yeah, that's my turn.
Yeah, man. We're going to
Anyway,
continue this.
first of all, your point of AI as a race weapon? No.
Yeah.
All right. What
Impossible.
Edison was asking about
I don't trust him.
how
That's why it
AI
ends with
should be
me.
useful and how we should use it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Basically, there's people who have just put together an animation cartoon, a black animation cartoon about Africa and the gods, and with our man Michael Jai White, who's Black Dynamite. It's
Mm.
called Black Sands and everything. Can't wait to see that. He's
Great.
going to be playing the Pharaoh Ra
Thank you.
and everything, so that's going to be amazing. Um, Now to answer your question, which nobody really kind of like focused on, where you said the future. Um, Again, we're in hell, bro. Edison's right. AI is here to stay. There's nothing we could do about the machine that has already been turned on. Where he was saying, how do we use it? But with our young people, basically, their minds are at that malleable state where they already have been using it. So they're been social media influencers, they're TikTokers. They've been using it for all the things that they've been using it for, just pleasures of fun. Some people have managed to get abused by the system and been used to like create, makeup products and hair products and do all of that, make a lot of money at it, but not that's not for everyone. Um, So what about those other 90% that can't do that? Well, unfortunately, because a lot of young people have been sitting on their asses and the teachers haven't been teaching them, they aren't as tactile as they used to be. It's hard to drag them out of their beds and onto a construction site. You can get them a job in Tesco's. They can do that. But then, like, the whole thing about it is the fact that there's no motivation. There's no motivation because everything seems to be fast, cheap, and easy to do. When it's like all I do is just use my phone, and all I do is just press this and press that, and then I can get what I want. And you can't. It's not for everyone. So the future looks bleak. It looks dark in that aspect. But like, there is a chance to change mindsets. And hopefully, it's all about who can attempt to change that mindset, which has been the crux of everything I've been saying the whole night. We have to, like, actually get them educated in the way that they used to being educated. Use the devices, use the phone, use the computer, and use the world that they are now owning to educate themselves and stop trying to educate them in the old-fashioned way. Because the school system's been around for 100 years, and everything, and it hasn't changed. The education system, it doesn't believe in change. It only just believes in buying new devices. And that's coming from a person who's been teaching in the education system for, more than like 6 to 10 years here. So, the future. I mean, what jobs are there? I mean, like, a lot of it's going to be lost to robotics. A lot of it's going to be lost to technology. Even simple things like drawing, graphic design is now getting taken over.
Yeah, that was one of the first things,
What
wasn't
about those guys who used to just sit there and draw and think, oh yeah, I could be a graphic design artist
it?
or an animator? And now all of that time is being cut faster and being done faster.
Mm.
Everything is about speed, as you guys been talking about. So human potential is hard to catch up in that kind of a race.
Well,
I
interesting.
don't mean to
Yeah.
sound bleak,
No, it's
but
no
I feel
problem.
that's realistic.
Well, I'm gonna come to let me come to
So the
Errol.
future, I wait for it. Somebody changed my mind. Somebody, actually proved me wrong. You know, or we can all just sit down, grab our popcorn, and watch the apocalypse.
Well,
That's
all
what
right
I'd
then.
say.
Well, let me good point anyway. But let me bring in Errol now because of you see with the reggae music and see like the Jamaican culture. Even you go place in Africa, take things slow, nice and easy, not rush, rush, rush. Yeah, over the year now, everything's all about that fast, fast, fast. And I know it's moving around the world, but if we start moving at fast paced, is your mind ready to move in a fast pace as well? Because I mean, your mind is your mind. I know people like to, even if you're really intelligent, your mind can work 100 miles an hour and all that, but we have to take things slow. If you know what I'm saying, sometimes it's if you look at like the West, everything is rush, rush, rush. Even about you see someone on nowadays, years ago, people would more spend time to have a conversation with each other. You see them on the street or whatever. But nowadays, hello, I'm just all past man, I just drive past you now, and everything different now. Everyone, so
Well, yeah, and that's the reality. The thing is, like Edison and Chase have said, AI is here, and we're going to have to deal with it.
Mm.
I like the idea of an AI app
yeah,
where
yeah,
we try and encourage people to do more creative things through AI. And I always come to things like, because I'm coming from the arts as well, dance, poetry,
Mm.
um, being into food in the last 20 odd years. So apps like that would be good to try and encourage people to do more creative things in terms of dance, food, cooking their own food, reading books. Today there was a International Book Day, trying to
Mm-hmm.
encourage youngsters to read a book. Now
yeah.
you're going to get the AI where, the book, even I do it myself sometimes. I put on my computer and Instead of reading the book, you put it on Word, don't you?
Yeah.
And it just reads it for you, and you listen,
Audible, yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it
yeah.
makes you become lazy, you
Mm.
know. So we ourselves have to try and be that example as well. But yeah, like what Shay said, yeah, I weep the same way with this AI, the speed that it's going at, you know. And the only way we're going to combat it is to
The black cat.
I thought that was a monkey for a second, bro.
Yeah, man. Black. It's on black consciousness, so it came in, man. Anyway. Yeah, man.
is to, you know, combat it with
It's a
the things
Fiji,
that
yeah?
Edison
Yeah,
was saying,
Fiji.
making
So-
an AI app
Mm.
to encourage youngsters to because the original question is the future for young people, you know, how we gonna, you know, really guide them in that way, you know. So yeah, that AA app, because like Shay said, that they're already using it. They've been using it. They're TikTokers, they're YouTubers, they're Facebookers, they're Instagrammers. You know, they've got even the games now. They can talk to one another as they're playing the football or whatever they're playing online. You know, they're interacting with people around the world, just playing a game. You know, so that speed is already here, and there's not much we can do to slow it down. To tell you the truth, we've just got to try and combat it in the best way we can. And like Chase says, they're using that medium already. And you've just got to, like I said, Leonard Jeffrey said to me, things may seem not interesting until you add Black consciousness to it, African centered to it. Once you add the African centeredness to any topic, it becomes interesting to us.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I'd really like to add to the conversation. You know.
All right, interesting. Now I'm going to come up with the closing questions now, because
Curtis gonna miss this one out. I gotta
No.
ask. Didn't get your chance because he was
Sorry.
on the. I'm just asking.
Yeah, that's true. Curtis didn't get a.
Didn't get his.
Oh, you'll
talk.
be on the telephone before. If you want to add on to this, Curtis, to what, and then we can go to the closing out.
Oh no, I was going to mention it's not really AI, but you remember I was sending you that video on YouTube of that Kenyan kid
Oh, brilliant! Now
who
that's
built the robotic arm.
Yeah, we'll speak on that, because I was actually going to mention that. Like,
Yeah.
explain it. That's a brilliant point. You read me mind. You showed that.
He just went in all the trash
Yeah.
and everything
Yeah.
from the West, and then just made a robotic arm. But not only that, it automatically calibrates itself to your brain function without it intruding into your skull or anything like that. And it comes kind of over his shoulder, and you can like pick a bottle up, take the top off the bottle and drink with it and everything.
Oh
And
yes,
this-
I've seen that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely amazing. Him and his friend, man, they were just like nerdy lads, you know what I mean? And what it does is it measures the ions that are getting created by your brain function, so it just automatically calibrates itself to you. So just by thought, you can pick things up with it. This is just
Okay.
some kid, yeah, just a kid.
Yeah.
No,
No,
like it's a young
brilliant.
teenager, yeah,
Well,
man.
they're the good things about AI, you know.
But,
And then there's
yeah,
the other side of things, isn't it?
Elon Musk didn't manage to do that.
With his Neuralink, he didn't get it with his Neuralink.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's doing intrusive stuff. This kid's doing it through the skull without being intrusive. And where's his blooming Nobel Prize or whatever?
Gonna be
Yeah,
so-
exactly.
You know what I mean? But listen to this. Can I just say something? I just found a video of my daughter when she was 8. You know, because you were talking about kids and that, and how sacred they are and how intelligent they are without having to be on some device. And I just want to make sure I don't paraphrase this, right? She was 8. She sat on the step, right? We were on our way to the park, right? And then she just said this to me. Let me just make sure I'm not paraphrasing it.
Will you let it fear will overpower love?
Love is more powerful than fear, but if you let it, fear will overpower love. She just came up with it one day. We were on our way out. I don't know where it came from, you know what I mean? But she's a very smart child, even now. She's 15 now. That was when she was 8.
Yeah.
But that just shows you, innit? Like kids were born intelligent. Do you know what I mean? Like extremely intelligent. It's that you get dumbed down by stuff in it most of the time, like the school system and all that.
Yeah. Well, interesting discussions. I want to come
Mm.
through one last time, go round now, and I'm going to kind of flip the topic a little bit. I'm more going to deal with identity, things like identity, like the core of Black consciousness from historical points of views. I mean, like when we use even the word black, for example, if you look at the word black, where it come from, so blackamoor, and then before that it was more, and then you go back to the Romans, more riche.
Mm.
And if I look at I'm sure you've all heard of Professor Carver Booker T. Anyway, I've had him on my show many times. He likes to refer to himself as a Moor. Not like the Moorish Science Temple where they all have
I
the
know
red,
what you mean.
red, red
Is
hats
he from
on.
the States?
Yeah, yeah. I've
Yeah,
had him on a
yeah.
few
I know what
times.
you mean, yeah.
Brilliant brother. Now,
Sovereign citizen.
so when I was interested in speaking to him, I said to him, okay, when we say, okay, we didn't call ourselves black, but we also didn't call ourselves Moors.
Mm.
So what he says is that with the word Moor, there's nothing offensive of that word. We're like black label, black ball, we're black for funeral, black, this and that. So
Mm.
with the word Moors and then Maurice, the Latin he mentioned was originally an African language anyway. And then if you look at the word Moor, it doesn't necessarily mean nothing negative. It just means like
Mm.
dark, scorched, like, and it can also refer to a geographical area like Mauritania,
Yeah.
Morocco, and you have Mauritius,
Mm.
so it does kind of relate to Africa to a degree in different ways. And I think what it is, it's like Ethiopia, the name, the land of the bare-faced people. This is what the Greeks referred to, not just Ethiopia, what we call Ethiopia, but
Yeah. Africans in general,
yeah, yeah,
sub-Saharan Africans and so on. Yeah.
yeah. So I think and then we could look at like even over in India, the Hindus and that, Krishna, black one, that means. Look at Sudan, the land of the blacks, but called by the Arabs. So there's always been some sort of reference to describe dark skinned people. But I think what it is with the European way is when they decided to put the labels on what black is, blackballed, black label, blacklisted, and we could go on forever with that. So I kind of understood them, but at the same time, we could even call Africa Al Kibulon, some people call it. But I think the main thing is of identity. The closest thing for me is yes, I'm aware I'm African, I'm aware I'm Nigerian. I also did do a DNA ancestry on my mother's side as well. Errol said before he traced himself to the Igbo people of Nigeria. Now, these things is like if you think about when you are doing a DNA ancestry test to find out what part of Africa you are from, because our knowledge is being robbed, stolen. And then on my mother's side, she's from Trinidad. And then when I found out she was from Nigeria, Yoruba, and that was interesting because I mean I already knew I was Nigerian one side. I didn't know I had Nigerian both sides. So I think these DNA ancestries, they're good. I'm not saying they tell you everything, but it's allowing you to know an attachment to your land. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah, yeah.
so that's what I'd like to say with identity as well, and the word black. We've always made black positive. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, so that was it. And people like we say about music, just quickly, the rapper like Tupac, for example. How many? I know we had different kind of tunes, but his tunes get into your soul. You can feel his pain. You know what I'm saying? You can feel his emotions. You can feel and relate to the black struggle around the world. So that's very important anyway. And I'm going to come to Patrick now because we're going to go around our last time now. And if you want to add on to this, Patrick, on black consciousness involving identity and anything else you want to relate to it.
Well, identity. I'll just keep it short because identity is important because identity is who you are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm.
Where you come from, who you
Mm.
are, and in a sense, where you're going. You know what I mean? There's it's almost like a trinity. You know what I mean? There's them three sections to it. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So yeah, identity is important for everybody to know.
Mm.
where they come from, where they are now, where they're going, and how that identity um, impacts them in a positive way. I wouldn't say impacts them in a negative way, but other people use your identity to impact you in a negative way rather than the identity itself impacts you negatively. But yeah, that's it really. You know what I mean? It's just identity is important for
Yeah.
everybody, especially oppressed peoples.
All right.
Their, their heritage is being lost, stolen, appropriated, and misrepresented.
Interesting. Yeah. Edison,
Yeah,
before we close out, we're going around last time. Anything you want to add on to this? And
yeah.
yeah,
Quick one.
feel free. Yeah.
I had to run off.
Oh, no problem. Anything you want to add before?
No. Not that I have to run off. I'd run off and didn't hear all you said about the more. So the quick one
Oh,
is
sorry.
it's interesting that they use the word more to suggest extra, and how we
Yeah,
have the
yeah,
concept of Moorgate in
yeah.
London, and how the Moors came over and created all the, what do you call it, cities and guilds. And that's
Exactly.
like nothing's told about how in Britain, when they left Portugal, they came here and then educated the Britons and then had them actually creating boats to go and do
Mm,
the whole slavery thing. That's what they did in Portugal. Anyhow, get that one out of the way because I couldn't help but to say that. As
yeah.
far as what do you say, identity,
Identity. Yeah.
we separate that into idea of your entity.
Mm,
So you're effectively an idea that was given to you when you was date stamped, given a culture, given a color, given a story, given a class, and that became your idea. And then the essence of who you was got shut down. So now you're basically operating from an idea that someone gave you, and you're operating in the story line that they give you. So your essence is now, instead of it being what it came here to do, the creator of everything, the one that makes everything happen, now it's stuck in a prison of a story with your name as the actual label that is put on the actual cell that you're in. So when you say identity, I always think of idea of the entity, and the entity is you, and you're the, instead of you being the I, you're the am, and whatever label they give you afterwards.
Interesting. Raz
Yeah.
Congo's like he comes with the root words of things. Even if it's not the root word, we have to find out our own words and flip it and bounce it. Yeah.
So
So definitely.
that's so your identity is really, as they say, you're the entity.
Yeah.
You have to get beyond what everyone has told you that you are, what you must be, what you must aspire to, artificial aspirations in life, where you have to then achieve what it is that someone has asked for you. So you, the essence, you, the actual being, you, the actual intelligence. If you can grab hold of that, then you realize the trick that they've given you, that you're the God, and everything that you've made as the creator is in somebody else's image.
Okay. Interesting. Curtis.
Well, identity comes from id, entity, and the id is an ancient Greek word, which means the part of yourself that you that identify as yourself. So that's what it actually means. And then there's idiot. Idiot doesn't mean you're stupid. It means you're selfish. Id iota, like an iota, which means there's only one. So it's solipsism. That's
Yeah.
what that is. You know what I mean? So
Mm.
that's where it really comes from. The id,
Right.
identity, yeah.
Chase, anything you want to add on because we're closing out?
Yeah, so I mean, identity to me is like an I statement, which means individual self. Yeah. And I think we always run into a problem when people try to identify a group of people as the same, like
Mm.
calling us blacks, calling us Negroes, calling us other N-words, calling us whatever they called us throughout, the decades and everything and stuff like that. And people are always trying to identify for themselves who they are, because they don't bother to actually search into their own family genealogy And so for me, like my identity is based upon the matriarchs in my family, you know what I mean? My two grandmothers, who both on my mother's side and my father's side, were both Indians. So one was Lakota Sioux and the other one was Blackfoot.
Mm.
So I've always identified myself more as an Indian than just say, okay, yes, my skin is black. You want to call me a black person? Okay, that's cool because my grandfather is black. But, I like the identification of the culture that I rather explored more of, which was my matriarchal culture. So I love to
Chase,
identify
Chase,
that part. And I think a lot of people find that when they are called, Hispanics, or they're called blacks, or they're called Chinese. It's kind of like they also individually have to search for themselves who they are. And you can't tell them who they are. And that's where arguments begin, is when people try to clump it all together as one.
Mm.
So I think
Chase,
everybody should just worry about who they are to themselves.
Chase.
Mm.
So if
Can I ask
somebody
you?
asks you what your identity is, then just worry about your own identity.
Yeah,
What is
Chase,
it that you know about
Chase,
yourself and where you come from?
Mm.
Chase. Two things I just want to add. Could you just mention you're Indian then? Like, now I heard a lot of different things from Black Americans. I'm not saying all of them. Some of them are very conscious, but sometimes I don't know what it is, but they always seem to run away from being black. Sometimes when you say, "Oh, I'm Blackfoot Indian," or I'm this. Now, say you took a DNA ancestry test. I think you
Mhm.
kind of look like you're coming up with more African than you would Indian, brother. Maybe you should try it.
Well, no, that's not true because,
Have
like,
you done the
actually,
test?
um, well, no, I'm trying to tell you. I mean, like, actually, like I said, I have researched my genealogy. I have looked into all of that. I have looked into like the bridge of my nose, my cheekbones, all that are of Indian traits. Now, the thing about it is the fact is that what I'm also just saying is that that was me and my discovery about who I am, as opposed to somebody like, well, I'm not saying that you were just doing it, but somebody trying to tell me, no, brother, you are black, right? And why do black people try to run away from their blackness? I'm not saying black people run away from their blackness. I do say that black people had a hard time in the 60s and 70s being black because of the hatred that white people had imposed upon to them. So a
Yeah,
lot of them would either go one way to the Black Power movement and be proud of their blackness, or in the other way, or they run from it. I mean, we have a lot of stories around race crossing and people whitening their skins. There's a lot of famous white actors who are actually black that are from like the 30s and 40s and all that. And if you actually looked into it, you'll be surprised at who actually are black and who you thought was always white. So I'm just trying to say is identity for them was like, I can't survive on just being black. If I want to be an actor, or if I want to be a singer, or if I want to do whatever, I have to be more than what my skin tone defines me as. So
yeah,
that's what I'm trying to
yeah,
say is identity is an individual choice
yeah.
and it should be respected in that way.
It is. I think what it is though is anywhere I go, I've traveled anywhere in the world where black people were kept at the bottom, and you will always have
Yeah.
someone remind you you are a black man or a black
Oh yeah,
woman.
definitely.
You ain't getting out of it sometime. But like I said, I can't speak from your background. I don't know how you've been raised. Have you been taught about Blackfoot, Cherokee? I mean, I hear this, but I do hear a lot of things come with black Americans. I'm not saying they're lost without not having an identity, but we have the people, the Moorish Science Temple. We're not African. We would always hear in America, or you get like the Hebrews of America. Oh, we're not African. Them African soldiers in
Well,
slavery.
yeah, but
We were
no, but
from
no, no,
Israel.
but see, the thing
I'm
about it,
just
no,
saying.
James,
I'm
James,
just saying.
James, the thing about it is, if you actually looked at one of the original maps of America, right,
Yeah.
when the Indians actually owned the land, right? I mean, there are so many Indian tribes or Native American tribes, indigenous tribes, whatever words that we want to attach to it nowadays, there's a reason to believe why a lot of those tribes' cultures have mingled with blacks to become,
Oh
black
yeah.
or
I'm well
black
aware.
Indian or whatever and all that other kind of stuff. You know, um,
I'm well aware
Again,
of
television
Mansa.
will make you think that Indians hated black
Yeah.
people, and
Yeah.
that's not true.
No, I'm well aware of the African presence going in different places, establishing cultures and that. But what I meant is sometimes these people, they deny the African slave trade, the transatlantic, some of them. I'm going to have to come to Errol to close out now as well. Errol, you know, like I'm sure you see identity. You've been to Jamaica, you got roots from Jamaica. Identity an issue in Jamaica, as you see.
Yeah, it is. But as Bob Marley says, every man has a right to decide his own destiny and identity. And I think Chase is right in what he's saying.
But it
That
depends,
resonates
though.
with me.
No, everyone has a right.
I don't think he's running from his blackness. He's
Yeah.
identified where he comes from.
He's born in
Somebody
America.
can't tell you where you come from. You will, our family has Indian roots as well. Okay.
India from
so
India.
You can't just label me as a black man. Like we said at the beginning of this program, none of us really like the term black because we come from nationhoods. We come from a nation. We come from somewhere in the African continent. Yet still, our family also comes somewhere from the Asian continent as well. So we're a mixture now that we find ourselves in the West. But what Chase is saying is that, you know, the man who brought us here wants to call us all the same thing, and we're not. We come from different backgrounds, you know, and we are a mixture of many nations, even in Africa itself. You know, Fulani, Wolof, whatever, Mandinga, they're not all one people. They're different people. They may be in skin color, but they're different ethnic groups. As we know, Africa is the most diverse continent on the planet.
But the only thing with ethnic
people
groups,
want to just label us all as usually all just black.
The only
people.
thing with ethnic groups, because this DNA ancestry is broadening things out. You watch a Nigerian go and get a DNA ancestry, full Nigerian. You'll see other West African countries come up. You'll see Southeastern Bantu come up because of the Bantu spread. So you see, years ago, I used to play into this tribal thing. I was saying today on a little WhatsApp group. I used to play into me tribalism, Egypt. But we're bigger than that, man. We're bigger.
Let me finish my point?
Yeah.
I'm not talking about tribes. I'm talking about nations.
Yeah.
Because even the word tribe is, you know, how can Europeans have nations and we be tribes?
Of course.
No, we come from nations.
Yeah, of course.
You know? So what I'm saying is that we are ethnically different, even on the continent. But one person wants to label us all the same. You understand? And now that we're in the West, we are mixed with many different things, from Portuguese to Spanish to English to German to Chinese to Indian. There's so much within our DNA now, you know, especially being talked to coming through the Middle Passage and finding ourselves in the Caribbean, you know. So we are a new nation. In fact, the people in the diaspora, yes, we have African roots, but we also have other roots, you know. And like I say, it's up to every man to define who he is. No one can tell you who you are.
It's true.
You know?
It's true.
Yes,
but when we've got,
black,
but when we're dealing with, you're right. No, you're right. What you're saying, but this is where the levels of black consciousness is different levels of it. Like I just stay pro-black, even though I've got other blood in me. I say pro-African, pro-black, and pro-original. But that's the way I am. That's the way I've been raised. So everyone's different how they've been raised. You know what I mean? So yeah. But anyway, I love this discussion.
Nobody's saying that people are not. Nobody's saying they're not pro-black in terms of that political term.
Yeah.
Because pro-black is only a political term. It's not who you are. It's just a political term. Because
when
people
I say
of color are being called in the Black Power movement.
Yeah.
It's an umbrella term to define people of color who have been down-pressed.
Yeah, but I look at the original man, the original people, jet black people, dark skinned. When I look at a picture of my grandfather coming from Nigeria, jet black, very Africoid features. When I look at these pictures, this is the essence. Now, don't get me wrong. Yes, there's other blood in me, but I'll be real with it. I'm only focused on the black. But that's me. That's me. It's like I just have a podcast. And for me, I want all black guests on this because I just like to promote our people, because I see a lot of excuses sometimes where, oh, it gets taken over by these people. But I'm trying to focus on our people. That's what I'm trying to
Well,
do.
that's and so was Chase. That's what his main point, because we are a people who are mixed now, especially in the diaspora, especially in the Americas, especially in the Caribbean. We are a mixed people, you know. Yes, we have African roots, like I said, but we also have other roots. And
Yeah.
like Chase was saying, it's up to that individual to define his identity and not for another man to force it on him.
But with
You know?
Brother Ranoka Rashidi, he always says, what you think about yourself is what you know about yourself.
Exactly.
So if you're being taught a lot of, like, you're not African, or you're taught you're only African, so the oppressor can teach us anything, you know what I'm saying? So
No, we're not talking about what the oppressor is
yeah.
taught us. We're talking about what we are. Like I just said, the oppressor didn't tell me I've got Indian roots.
Oh,
I know that in
yeah,
my family.
yeah.
You understand? I
Yeah.
know that from the mixture that come from coming from the Caribbean, coming from Jamaican parents. I know what mixtures are there.
Yeah.
No one ever taught me that, oh no, you're not African, you're Indian. No.
Oh yeah. Well,
I
the
know that
Trinidad,
from the roots that I have.
the
You
Trinidad got bad
understand?
Indians
So
there,
I think
man.
you're
You know what I mean?
misunderstanding what people are saying. You
Know
know?
where I was coming from anyway. I'll just briefly, when Chase mentioned about, because I hear this a lot with Black Americans. This is why I brought it up, because I hear about all different identities that they come with. Now, sometimes, I'm not saying Chase is lying or whatever, but there's a lot of Black Americans who use this. I've got this Indian in me. There was that Henry Louis Gates, who does the DNA ancestry. He got a lot of Black Americans on. Yeah, Chris Rock, Chris Tucker, all of them. What's the other one? Oprah. All of them anyway. And he said, okay, this Indian you've been talking about, Indians, out of about 20 of them, one of them have 2% Indian, and the other just was Black and European. So this is why I brought that up, because of
James. So let me just say, I don't want to take up all that time, and thank you, Errol, for sending. Let me just say that being a Black American and being one of those that you're probably talking about, that like trying to like not focus much on our Black history or the African side, is that I come from that generation that was stamped out of us. I keep telling you, man. I mean, I'm from the '60s. It was horrible. The
Oh,
civil
come back to
rights
brother.
movement, all
Yeah.
that shit was horrible. I mean, you talk about fucking, the Nazis, whatever shit like that. It was horrible. But because we didn't know about redlining, we didn't know about Tulsa. We didn't know about Black Wall Street. We didn't know about the Black Republicans when they actually got their Emancipation Proclamation, because all of that stuff was kept from us.
Yeah.
If we knew about that, then we probably would have been more prouder of our African heritages. You know what I mean? But we weren't. And when Patrick brought up Garvey was a Zionist. He wasn't about. I mean, they did stamp that word Pan Africanism on him, but he was a Zionist. He
Good to be the
just was all
Zionists.
about go back to Africa and all that kind of shit. It wasn't about how proud he was to be an African. He wouldn't be able to tell you if he was Yoruba or if he was from Uganda. Do you know what I mean? I'm just trying to say
No,
is
you can't.
like that people from my generation, they had
Garvey's
a
a big
very tough
influence, man.
time. So
Yeah.
like when you speak about it, like it'd be better if you spoke about it from understanding what it was for to be Black in that time period. That's why Black people were always trying to find identity elsewhere. You know
Yes.
what I mean?
You've just
And,
explained my
and I
point,
agree
Chase.
that they should find
Yeah.
identity in their Africanness.
Yes.
They
You've
should be
answered it.
proud of being from Africa.
Yeah.
But they weren't in my generation at that
Because
period.
of this
You
and
got to look at
this.
what I'm talking about.
No,
So I'm sorry.
no,
I'm
respect.
not even getting upset, man.
No, you've
I didn't want to
explained
take
it.
up all
You're
the
making a
time
great
there on
point,
that.
Chase.
You've
Appreciate
explained it.
you saying what you said, though, Errol.
No,
You know
respect.
what I mean?
You've just explained it yourself, Chase. You've just said it. You've just said it all. You know what I mean? So I understand
No. But I'm
where you
just
come
saying.
from. I
I
respect what you
mean, I
said.
am proud to be Black, though. I don't want you to think that I'm not. I'm talking about the
No.
generational pain
No, I
that you
respect. I
bring up
respect what you've just
by
said.
in your speaking about it, because you're not speaking from we're about a person who's lived through it. Do you know
Yeah,
what I
man.
mean?
Yeah. No, I totally understand because of what was going on during the 60s and these times. Of course, no, I feel what you're saying, brother. I feel what you're saying.
No,
But
no,
that
no,
all
I hear you, man.
explain.
No disrespect, though, bro.
No, not at all.
Um,
Not at all. I'm happy how you explained it, how you did. It's only because, like, we see a lot of it. Anyway, does anyone else want to add to this before we close out anyway? Patrick, or Edison?
Well, no, I give my closing bit about identity, how it's important for people to, know
Yeah.
their identity, and I'll just stick with the same what I said. Important for people to learn their identity, know it, to know the past, the present, where it takes them in the future. So that's it.
Yeah.
It's short and sweet. It's still.
Interesting. Edison, anything you want to finish off?
It's
Curtis?
one of those things.
Yeah.
Your consciousness isn't black.
The
You
spirit.
close your eyes and
Yeah.
you can't tell yourself what color you are. I
Mm.
don't want to disrespect anyone's memories
Yeah,
of
yeah,
how they
yeah.
were treated based on how they actually looked. But the actual essence of them has no color. Not because I'm trying to appease anyone or anything. It's just as soon as you know you're not working from any sort of stereotype, any sort of belief system, any sort of idea, you can be infinite. Otherwise, you're going to be walking into a story where someone has told you who you are based on how you look without knowing your memories or histories. So you can be something way beyond that and get into aspects of yourself that go beyond the idea of who you think you are in this lifetime. So really, it's just that. So all of us, unfortunately, what happened to us are memories that we own, and no one can disregard them and say that that never took place. But the actual essence of us in the end is where we have to end up, because the history only we remember.
It's like the Chinese have about 54 ethnic groups, but you know what? They all come under one umbrella and they say, you're Chinese.
Yeah.
India's the same. Do you know what I mean? But that's why I think with Africa is when we try and connect it, sometimes we say we have the tribal thing, or not just tribal. People might say, well, this is West Africa. We were different from these East Africans or North Africans. But at the end of the day, we all originate from the same place. You know what I mean? At the end of the day. And I've enjoyed this discussion anyway, but and I give thanks to you all. You've all contributed. And I really like these group discussions. And as I was saying, Chase, before, when you first mentioned about Blackfoot and this and that, I weren't trying to insult your intelligence, not like that. I was just saying I've heard all these things before. And then you actually answered your own question afterwards when you were saying about the oppression going on in the 60s. And of course, I weren't born then, of course, and I weren't born in the States. So at the end of the day, I hear a story from when Errol was younger, my pops was younger, what they had to go through. And I know it's not like comparing it to Black America. So you answered actually your own question, which was brilliant. And at the end of the day, we need more self-love anyway when we're dealing with Black consciousness. We need more confidence, you know what I mean? Because we're not going to pass this down to the youth. Why pass down the traumas? Oh, we were only slaves, and that's all we knew. Roots, getting whipped, Chicken George. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, man, let's spread some positivity in our people, man. But I give thanks to you all, brothers.
Thank you.
Yeah,
All right.
thank you.
Man. James Diboe,
Yeah,
discovering, dedicated to regional peoples. Another powerful discussion. Give thanks, brothers, and we'll do this again.